from her, and I can't find her.
The last known images of Elizabeth Griffith were recorded while she was shopping inside this Walmart.
It seemed like a very short time frame that people started to look for Elizabeth, that now Stacy is gone.
Just love to dance and just have fun with the kids. Just a bundle of joy.
She's like, some nice guy stopped to help.
You told her, let him go. Tell him to leave. You've got help coming.
Yeah. And
she wouldn't. But now, a phone call that would change everything. A third woman taken.
There was a female and that she had been held captive.
Sounds like something out of a movie.
Absolutely.
A horror movie.
You can hear her desperation for help.
It's a chilling call.
Oh, no.
Did you know anything about what you were about to face?
No.
And I saw her hand. I saw her outstretched hand through the window.
And then the line goes silent.
Yep.
What is the address to your emergency? 4th Street, Laundromat. What's the problem?
It's 6:48 a.m. in September 2016. Emergency dispatchers receive a 911 call from a terrified woman. She's whispering that she's being held at a house near the laundromat and that her captor is asleep at her side.
Is she in the same room with you?
Yes.
Does she have a weapon?
She's got a taser.
Is there any way you can get out of the building?
I don't know without waking him, and I'm scared. His bedroom is closed, and he made it so it would make noise.
We have officers responding.
Officer Kurt Dorsey rushes to the scene, leaving his siren off so that it does not alert the abductor. So, what were you doing when the call came in?
We responded from the police station. We were trying to be stealthy. We were told that the suspect was sleeping, so we wanted to approach and not make a bunch of noise.
You weren't even sure the call was real, right?
I didn't believe it was real at first, just because of the town that we live in. Just not a typical call that we would get in Ashland.
Ashland, Ohio. It's a small city between Columbus and Cleveland, home to more than 50 churches and a large Amish community.
Ashland is a quiet, rural community. There's about 20,000 people who live there. It has a university, a lot of farm fields.
So this is Ashland. What can you tell me about the town?
Well, as you can see, it's rolling hills, scenic. A lot of community stuff going on. Our football games. The county fair. A lot of farm animals, a lot of competitions and shows for kids to get involved with.
Typical small town where everyone knows everyone, right?
Yes, exactly.
Kim Major has had 23 years of service as a detective in Ashland.
I handled violent crime and I handled sex offenses and child abuse. I'm over 1,000 of those cases.
1,000?
Yeah.
At the time of that terrifying 911 call, the community is already on edge. Just a week before, police discovered that a woman in town had simply vanished. Well, there was a missing person named Elizabeth Griffith.
Yes. Elizabeth was known in our town. I had had contact with her. I think we all had. A lot of the officers would have an eye on her.
She was kind of a vulnerable person, and we helped her quite a bit as a police division.
She used to call them quite frequently. She would call them about anything and everything. Just like, I heard it's going to snow today. Is there any chance that the roads will be closed? She was definitely a character.
Facing mental health challenges, 29-year-old Elizabeth Griffith attended meetings at a peer support center called LifeWorks.
Elizabeth was very bubbly and energetic. The first time I met Elizabeth was at LifeWorks, and she was coming down the hallway, and I was coming opposite of her. And she was like, "Hey, you're new here." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "You want to be my friend?" And I was like, "Sure, let's be friends."
She was embraced not just by LifeWorks, but also by her church family.
Elizabeth was a really sweet girl, a simple person. She liked to make people laugh. She liked to sing. She loved to worship. She would raise her hand the highest during worship. Even though she was tone deaf, she'd sing louder than anyone else. She was very much with the heart of a child. It was a little harder for her to grasp some things sometimes.
She was a very loving person and a very loyal person. Certainly financial challenges, certainly medical challenges, mental health challenges.
She lived on her own in her own apartment. She did have a case manager that kind of helped her with daily life struggles. She was always introducing herself to everybody, very outgoing.
The community knew Elizabeth, and she was one of ours, and she was taken care of.
But then Elizabeth's support team realizes no one has seen her in weeks.
We were at LifeWorks, and the phone rang, and it was Elizabeth's case manager. And she had asked if we had seen Elizabeth lately. She was like, "I can't find her." So I called her cell phone, and it just went straight to voicemail, which was highly unlikely for Elizabeth. I was like, something's not right.
I was concerned because where would she have gone? What could have happened?
She wasn't the type of person that would go missing, so we sort of knew something was wrong there.
This is an area where I would often see Elizabeth Griffith walking, and just days before her disappearance, I stopped and chatted with her right up here.
It was a baffling case.
It was baffling. We didn't know if she had taken off or did she meet somebody online and leave. We didn't know if it was suicide. We didn't know where she was.
Everybody was taking to social media, posting pictures of her. Everyone was looking for her. Everybody was praying for her.
Police began to investigate, speaking to Elizabeth's neighbors and friends and tracing her last known steps.
I began talking with some of the public transit drivers because she would often use public transportation.
Before she disappeared, records showed that Elizabeth had taken the bus to go shopping. The last known images of Elizabeth Griffith were recorded while she was shopping inside this Walmart. There's video of her going through the aisles and then waiting for the bus. She disappeared shortly thereafter, and she wouldn't be the only one. It turns out there's another missing woman in Ashland.
I said, "All right, Mom, I love you. I'll talk to you tomorrow." And that was the last we ever heard from her.
Police in Ashland, Ohio are searching for missing woman Elizabeth Griffith, and then they discover there's a second woman in town who also has mysteriously disappeared. 43-year-old Stacy Stanley, a divorced mom, devoted to her sons, Curtis and Corey.
One of my mom's favorite songs was Leonard Skinner's Freebird. It's a pretty good song.
Corey likes simple pleasures, playing music, riding his motorcycle on the highways of Ohio, raising his baby daughter. For him, family is everything, and his bond with his mother, Stacy, has always been particularly tight.
Good boy, you kiss your brother.
How would you describe her?
Very loving and caring, to do anything for anybody, give the shirt off her back if she needed to.
Always there for her kids, calling you consistently. You know, if you didn't pick up, she'd call you like 1,000 times.
My sister was a very outgoing person.
It's a perfect time to make this wish. Have a happy birthday. Love, Grandma and Grandpa Stanley. $5.
Growing up, we were so close in age and we shared the same room and stuff growing up.
And karaoke?
She would sing some songs.
Now and then when I see your face.
She loved punk rock music and the look, too.
Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. I actually had a video of her singing it when we were kids. I was videotaping her singing that.
So she was not afraid to get on stage and perform?
Love of mine.
Even as adults, you were pretty close.
Yeah, I'd come home from work and she'd have big bunches of food made up, and I was like, oh, wow.
I hear she was a great cook.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get look like this over nothing, you know.
She fed you well, huh?
Yes,
sir.
Absolutely.
And Stacy was a new grandmother to Curtis's 3-year-old daughter.
She was a great grandmother. She was spoiled the hell out of her for sure.
Just love to dance and just have fun with the kids. Just a bundle of joy.
Stacy lived in Greenwich, Ohio, 30 minutes from Ashland.
Stacy was not from our county. She was from a county that butts up to our county, and she had visited Ashland.
It was September 8th, 2016, when she takes a fateful drive to Ashland to run some errands.
So she went to Walmart to get some gardening supplies because she loved doing her gardening. And she also went and got her nails done. And then after that, she was getting some gas and to come back home.
It's around 8:30 at night when Stacy calls her son Corey from this gas station. She's stranded here with a flat tire and needs help.
She was like freaking out. And I said, well, just calm down. We'll find somebody to help you.
Were you worried?
Oh, not necessarily out the rip.
It's just a flat tire, you're thinking.
Just a flat tire, yeah.
They're able to find a family friend to meet Stacy at the gas station, but it turns out a stranger has also shown up to help.
She's like, some nice guy stopped to help. I then told her to tell him to kick rocks. We got somebody coming to help you. And
she wouldn't?
Well, she's like, oh, he's a nice guy. He just stopped to help. And so my mom, the person she was friendly and talked to people. This guy takes over and he changes the tire. She offers him a ride home. And I said, all right, Mom. I said, call me in the morning. She's like, okay, I love you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I said, all right, love you too, Mom.
But the next day, Corey and Curtis don't receive the usual flurry of calls from their mom.
And then I talked to my aunt, and I'm like, hey, Mom's not picking up. I don't know what's going on. We ended up breaking into her house to get in, and she had 2 little dogs. She loved them little dogs, little chihuahuas.
Her dogs were still in their kennel, so we knew something was going on.
The Huron County Sheriffs had put out a bolo to be on the lookout for her vehicle.
We went driving the roads.
Looking for her.
In case she might have had an accident, was down in a ravine or a ditch or anything. We went looking, driving the routes from Ashland back to Greenwich.
Within hours, Stacy's family spreads out across the streets of Ashland, trying to find any trace of her.
We went down to the gas station, the BP, where she was last seen.
I had printed off like almost 2,000 or 3,000 flyers. And we were just passing them out and putting them up everywhere. And there's probably a good 70 of us at least out there handing flyers out.
Detective Brian Evans is on patrol in Ashland when he spots the family.
As I was driving around the city of Ashland, I met up with different groups of her family who was actively searching for Stacy at the time. They were in different groups knocking on doors. They were going down to some abandoned buildings.
Well, I came across the radio that somebody had reported her car on East 9th Street in Ashland. We beat the cops over to the car.
And I opened the door and I looked, I was like, the seat was all the way back. So my mom was short, so it didn't make sense why the seat was back.
I had grabbed her cigarette container she put her cigarette butts in, and I happened to see a Camel filtered cigarettes in there. And I was like, these aren't my mom's. My mom don't smoke these. At this point, it's alarming because somebody else was in this car.
So now it's not just Elizabeth Griffith who is missing in Ashland.
It seemed like a very short time frame that people started to look for Elizabeth, that now Stacy is gone. The odds of two women missing at the same time just did not make sense whatsoever.
To have two missing women in this town of Ashland is a big deal.
It's a huge
Unusual?
deal. Very, very unusual for a county this size to have anyone missing, much less two women missing.
The community had concern. The word was starting to spread around.
We were like, what's really going on? It's Ashland. Like, stuff like that doesn't happen in Ashland.
Then a heart-stopping clue in a window at the back of the house. Sounds like something out of a movie.
Absolutely.
A horror movie.
I'm a 911 dispatcher, Ashland Police Department. I've been a dispatcher for 26 years.
What is your typical day like?
Go to work, sign into all the computers. We usually have 6 to 8 screens, depending on what center you're at. Answer calls. You never know when the call will come in or what kind of call it's going to be.
Your most memorable call?
Probably this one.
What is the address to your emergency?
September 13th, 2016. 6:48 a.m.
Yep, the end of my shift.
By September 13th, 2016, Elizabeth Griffith had not been seen for a month. Stacy Stanley for 5 days. You're working the dispatch and you get that call.
At first, I couldn't hear her. It was real quiet. She was whispering.
What's the problem? I've been exhausted.
He says, I've been abducted.
Yes.
Your reaction?
My reaction was to find out where she was at first, to get her out of there.
20 West 81st Street.
The dispatcher had told us that there was a female and that she had been held captive somewhere near a laundromat. So we immediately start to drive towards the area of the call.
Where's she at now? Asleep. Where's she sleeping at? In the bedroom.
I asked her more questions, trying to get as much as I could before he woke up.
You have to be calm, but there's an urgency.
Yes.
The woman says she's calling from her abductor's phone.
He had fallen asleep at some point, and she was able to secure this phone.
You couldn't trace the call back then?
Couldn't trace the call. This was a flip phone. It was not coming back to a location.
Do you need an ambulance? Are you bleeding from anywhere? Not anymore. Where were you bleeding from? You don't have to talk if you don't need to, okay?
Why couldn't she get out on her own?
Well, he had taken the doorknobs off, apparently.
As Officer Dorsey heads to the scene, there's a problem. How to find her?
The caller does not know her exact address, but she tells 911 she's being held captive in a house next to this laundromat. The problem for police is that there are 2 very similar houses in this area. There were 2 houses right here?
Yes. 2 identical houses.
And you didn't know which one?
No, they were nearly identical, both the same color, same shape, 2-story. We had no idea which one.
They can't just gang bust into a house. What if he'd have woke up with a weapon and hurt her? So they had to find her quietly. So they were outside looking for her.
So how do you approach the house knowing that the captor is asleep?
So we first started to just look in windows to see if we could see anything. Just check different doors to see if we can pinpoint which house she's in.
As police conduct the search, there's a heart-stopping moment when the caller says she has awakened her abductor.
Just set the phone down.
You can hear the sheer terror in her voice when he wakes up.
Yep.
And then the line goes silent. It must have seemed like
Yes,
that.
forever.
What's going through your mind?
I'm just praying they find her.
Five agonizing minutes later, she's back.
Yep.
Are you still there? Do you hear any officers outside? Okay, they're in the area.
What was it like to hear her voice again?
It was good. Glad she was still there and not hurt. And he was still sleeping. So that's good.
You can hear her desperation for help.
It's a chilling call.
It's chilling.
I remember as I was checking the doors, panic starts to set in. I wanted to find her so bad. We're going back and forth between the two houses. The dispatcher had told us at some point that she heard a door.
Do you hear him?
I remembered that I had pulled on a door hard and it made a noise that I didn't intend. So I ran around the house that we were currently at and looked towards the direction of the other house.
And they tell him to come back. She said, hurry, hurry.
And I saw her hand. I saw her outstretched hand through the window, and I knew at that point she was in there. I would have gone through the wall to get to her.
A hand right on the window. That's pretty eerie. Sounds like something out of a movie.
Absolutely.
A horror movie.
So we went to the door. It was locked, and I asked the dispatcher to relay to her that she needed to unlock the door.
Can you unlock the door at all?
She's able to unlock it, and we're able to open it.
Hurry up, get out here. Where is he? Still sleeping. Still sleeping? Yeah. Okay, they have her.
It took 19 long minutes to get her out. What was it like when you finally hear Detective Dorsey?
It's the best sound ever. I was glad because the officers were safe. She was safe.
You smile a little because you're proud of her?
Yeah, proud of her.
What a relief. What was it like when you came face to face with the victim?
I'll never forget the way that she looked at us. She looked shocked, like she had seen a ghost. She was fully nude. I don't think I've ever felt so much relief to find her. Divine intervention and a good dispatcher led us to that house and ultimately that door.
So now police need to find out what happened in this house.
Hurry up, get out here. Where is he? Still sleeping. Still sleeping? Yeah. Okay, they have her.
With the terrified 911 caller safely in their custody, police turned their attention to her abductor, a 40-year-old man identified as Sean Great. The dramatic moment when he's apprehended is heard on that open line from the 911 call.
Once we got Mr. Great into custody, he was handcuffed. He ended up in my car. So I began interviewing Mr. Great. And how do you know her again?
We spent a lot of time lately together. We go eat lunch every day.
The victim, a 36-year-old woman police identify as Jane Doe to protect her privacy, is transported to the Ashland Police Department. Police are desperate for information, no easy task, as the woman was traumatized and still in shock. But Ashland police have a secret weapon. Enter Detective Kim Major.
Kim is the best interviewer that I've ever seen. She's able to speak with anyone, whether that be small kids or a violent criminal.
I was the only female detective for the majority of my career. Is that good? Is that good?
Major balanced the demands of detective work with the responsibilities of being a mother to 3. That morning, Detective Kim Major is in the shower getting ready for work, and she misses 2 phone calls from her captain at the Ashland Police Department.
And I called him back, and he said, well, he gruffed at me and said 2 calls and a text. And he said, there's been a kidnapping. We've rescued the woman, and I need you to come in and interview her.
You come to the station, and what happens?
The victim was taken into my office at the end of this hallway, and that's where I spoke with her.
She had been tortured emotionally and physically.
Yes, she had. So I bring her into my office.
The effects of the woman's harrowing ordeal were immediately apparent.
The first thing I noticed is her appearance, of course. I could see that she had been victimized. The second thing I noticed was that I could smell the scent of her perpetrator. It's testosterone.
You could smell him.
I could.
What did you learn about Jane?
I learned that she had met Sean Great. She eats her noon meal at what we call the Croc Center. They provide free meals at noon. Jane Doe would eat there sometimes, and that's where she met Sean Great.
He was tall like my brother, my older brother, and he's kind of goofy, but he struck me as kind. When I would run into him at lunch, and if neither one of us was doing anything, we'd just walk around Ashland.
This is a woman so strong in her Christian faith that no man's phone number is in her phone, not one. No man crosses the threshold of her door.
He let me know that he would be interested in more, but I told him that I wasn't interested in, in beyond friends.
Kim was speaking with Jane Doe, and our captain at the time, Captain Lay, was speaking with Sean Great in the interview room.
David Lay, you are Sean. Sean. Great.
At the same time Jane Doe and Sean Great were being interviewed at the station, Detective Brian Evans was part of a team sent back to search the house where Jane had been held captive.
We went upstairs. The mattress in the bedroom looked like a dirty, used mattress that was just found somewhere and used as a mattress. And then there were some restraints, as in tied clothing, tied to different areas of the mattress to where it looked like that's where Jane Doe was possibly tied up.
So just how did Jane Doe end up a prisoner in this house of horrors? The pair had been out for one of their regular walks and ended up at the house where Sean Great had been staying.
He told her that he had some clothes for her. She also had bagged up some food for him. And she said it was against her better judgment to walk through the door because it's unlike her. But she did.
He just started showing me the clothes, and I remember him asking if I had an extra Bible because he didn't have one, so I got him one.
So she sat down to read the Bible, and as she's reading, he began to pace. And then he charged towards her, grabbed the Bible from her hands, ripped it from her hands.
Jane Doe tells Detective Major that at that point, Sean Great attacked her.
I tried to push him away and get up. I was just doing everything, trying to kick, punch, but everything I did, he just did it so much harder.
And then what did he do to her?
Sexually assaulted her. And her words were every way imaginable.
He would always bind my wrists, my legs at times.
The details were horrifying, but the interview takes a sudden turn when Jane Doe mentions the name of Elizabeth Griffith, one of 2 missing women police had been searching for.
She lived in the building next to me. Sweet, but like a child. Sean and I were playing badminton in the front yard, and Elizabeth saw us and came out. I think she just started, talking with us, and I don't know if I introduced her or she introduced herself.
Police discover there's a vital link between Jane Doe, Sean Great, and Elizabeth Griffith. All three of them would frequent this community center where they'd get free meals. That connection sets off alarm bells. Was it possible that this man, unknown to law enforcement in Ashland, Sean Great, was also involved in the disappearance of Elizabeth Griffith?
When I stepped out of my office, my captain said, "Listen, I need you to go in and talk to him about what Jane Doe told you. Can you go in and see if you can nail down the facts regarding that, see if it parallels what he's saying happened?" "Hey, Sean, I'm Kim Major. Nice to meet you." The last thing he said before I walked in was, "And while you're in there, see if he knows anything about the missing girls."
Did you know anything about what you were about to face? What do you do?
Well, I walked down this hallway. I was told to go ahead and interview him, and this is where the interview room is. And when I came in, he was seated right here.
Oh, he's right here.
Yeah. "Hey, Sean, I'm Kim Major. Nice to meet you."
Before you came in here, did you have any idea what you were in for?
No, I had no idea.
You had your own recorder.
Yes,
And what did you do?
I took the recorder and just dropped it down my top.
Because you wanted a record of this.
Yes, just a backup in case something happened. And in this case, it proved valuable.
Valuable indeed, because the video system stopped recording shortly after Detective Major began interviewing Great. That means her backup was the only recording of the interview while the system was down.
So we're going to get these cuffs off you.
You decided to take off his handcuffs.
Yeah,
Why?
I need to drop all of those things that would inhibit somebody's ability to relax or feel comfortable.
But out of his handcuffs, he could attack you.
He could.
You weren't thinking about that.
At that time, no.
In a city where law enforcement routinely interacts with the community, Sean Great was not known to police.
I had never heard his name. I had never had any tips about him. We didn't know him.
Sean Great had grown up in Marion, Ohio. That's about an hour from Ashland. He was a good-looking kid, charming.
With Sean Great, people talk about his eyes, they're piercing blue eyes. And women will talk about that. That's how they recall him, or his eyes.
He just had one of these very likable personalities, very soft, laid back, very unassuming type of personality. And it was just one of those things that you just almost couldn't hardly not like.
Sean never told me much at all about his background. I knew he had either a sister and a brother. I had never met his dad. He told me his mom abandoned him. He absolutely hated his mother.
Christina Hildreth dated Sean Great for 5 years.
I think before we moved in together, he had worked at, it was a motel, Super 8 or something in Marion, and he might have worked there a couple of weeks. That was about it. Other than that, I've never known him to have a job.
While unknown to police in Ashland, Sean Great had become a familiar face at the Croc Center.
He would just come to our hot meal and just kind of integrated himself into the community meal and the community that attended and started making friends. I'd see him around town, walking and talking with people, and he just really kind of absorbed what we had.
What did he say about Jane?
At first, he tried to present it as if she wanted him, like they were in a relationship, that she wanted the sexual piece of this.
One of the reasons why she said she wanted to marry me, because she was horny that day.
Eventually, as we peel that away, you realize she didn't want this.
Just as empathy had helped in speaking to Jane Doe, Major was using a similar approach, hoping to gain Great's trust. And slowly, he begins to open up, sharing details about his childhood.
It may have started when my mom left me when I was a child. I come home from school and she's gone, but I don't blame her. I used to, but
Why did she leave?
she gotta go find herself.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Does he admit that something happened with Jane Doe?
Eventually, he begins to talk about what happened and admits in layers. He admits that he had held her there captive, admits that he had tied her up.
I mean, looking at this whole thing, you forced her to have sex. She didn't want to.
I abducted her and I raped her.
And there it was. Detective Major had the confession, but the confession itself only raised more questions.
As he spoke about what he did to Jane Doe and would use the words kill, that he strangled her, you begin to realize this may be way more than Jane Doe. And earlier in my career, I probably would have stopped right at Jane Doe. Now I realize it's a partial confession.
Detective Major brings the conversation back to Elizabeth Griffith, that missing woman who Jane Doe said also knew Sean Great.
We can't find Elizabeth. We'll find her, but we can't right now. Hey, look at me. Look at me. I need your help.
Help you.
That goes on for just so long enough that he's acting like he has no idea what I'm talking about.
And then suddenly, Sean Great makes a shocking revelation.
I might not be able to take her, maybe someone else.
How many are there?
I don't know. How did you say many?
Now, detectives knew Elizabeth Griffith and Stacy Stanley were missing, but now Sean Great seems to be talking about even more women.
I guess I'm ready to go ahead and get my lethal injection.
Then things take a bizarre and frightening turn.
I'm thinking, this is not good.
At what point do you realize I might be dealing with a serial killer? You're in this very room alone with a serial killer.
The magnitude was becoming clearer to me. Whatever he did, I'm going to get it.
Police are now investigating whether they have a serial killer on their hands.
Are there any other girls in the house right now?
He had cut a slit into the back of the couch, and he was crawling in and out of the couch, and he would come out at night.
He says, "Meet the other me." I just froze. The first thing that hit my mind is a monster.
You don't normally have a killer show you how he did it.
He said, "I'll just do it on you." Kind of grinned. I'd get up behind him like this. He locks this in, he locks this arm in, he locks this head here, and then he just pushes down and squeezes.
Wow.
At one point, he told me it was probably a good thing I had him in custody, because there would be more.
We knew that she was relatively young. She had perfect teeth. We had somebody that had confessed to her murder.
A fellow inmate tells you that Sean Great, that he wants to kill you?
Well, that desire, I'm feeling it now.
Sean Great has confessed to his assault on Jane Doe, but what about those two missing women in Ashland? It's an urgent race to find out. Is he behind their disappearance, and can they be saved? And as you continue interrogating Sean Great, time is of the essence.
Time is always of the essence. I feel like I'm against the clock to get him to say something before I say the wrong thing and cause them to stop talking at all.
And you're thinking he might have these two missing women and they could still be alive.
Absolutely. I start pressing him on where Elizabeth Griffith is.
Can you take me to where she is?
I can't.
Why? Sean, look at me. If I take you in my little detective truck, can you take me out?
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
I'm looking for Elizabeth's body. Can you take me to it?
She's dead?
Then suddenly Sean Grade reveals shocking information that maybe he can bring Detective Major to somebody else.
I might not be able to take her, maybe someone else.
How many are there?
What did you say, many?
What?
I don't know. There might not be none.
He says he might not be able to take me to her, meaning Elizabeth, but might take me to someone else, and that there might be some many or there might be none.
So he's playing with you.
Possibly he's wanting to tell me something.
Will you take me there?
Take the place to Mansfield.
Where she is? Or are you going to take me to Mansfield? Or there's another girl?
Well, there's a girl. Like nuts.
What happened?
She's been gone.
Is she in a house? What is she in?
What?
All right, what's her name?
Candace.
Candace?
Cunningham.
Cunningham?
He tells you there's someone else and that woman is Candace Cunningham.
Yes.
Did you know who she was?
I did not know Candace. Candace hadn't been reported missing.
As our colleagues watching in the other room start looking for information on Candace Cunningham, Detective Major continues to question Sean for more information. After all, the two missing women in Ashland are still unaccounted for.
As I watched the interview, I could see that Sean was warming up to Kim. He was telling her more. Her methods were working.
What was it about you that he connected with, felt comfortable with?
He told me that I had empathy, that he could see it.
Who else?
The house. Where I came from.
Yeah? Is somebody in there?
Yeah.
Who is it? Is it Elizabeth? Where is she in there?
In the closet.
So then Sean admits to you that Elizabeth's body is in the closet in that same house where he was holding Jane Doe.
Right in the same house. When he said that, I didn't know if she was alive or not.
As Kim's interviewing, I called Detective Brian Evans to tell him that Elizabeth was upstairs in a closet. He had been working on a search warrant at the house.
I was surprised by the information because officers had cleared the house. We headed upstairs to see if we could locate Elizabeth. This is an abandoned house that has old wooden steps. You could see bare footprints going upstairs.
One of the guys on scene said, there is no closet upstairs. That detective went directly to a particular room and looked up and realized there was a concealed closet.
There was a bunch of clothing just all over this closet.
There were stuffed animals piled down below.
As we started pulling away the clothes, you could see the fly activity, and there was an electrical tape that was taped up around the sides of the door to help from the smell to come from the door. And once the doors opened, there was another large pile of clothing. You could see the fly activity again all over the clothing.
Elizabeth's body was underneath all this.
Yes, it was.
What goes through your mind at that point?
Well, that it was a tragedy, and once the clothes were removed, her body, she was actually kind of like face down and hog-tied back.
Chilling, huh?
Yes, it was very sad.
Sean tells Detective Major that the night of Elizabeth's murder all began when he says she called him late at night because she couldn't sleep.
She came over about 11 o'clock when she brought over Yossi, big Yossi. It just happened that the truck just reached up and just choked her.
We just didn't think it was possible. It couldn't have been Elizabeth. It just couldn't have been. And then we found out it was.
And we just sobbed and sobbed because it had come to a conclusion that we were not going to see our friend again.
You're in this very room alone with a serial killer.
Yes. As it progressed, the magnitude was becoming clearer to me.
I guess I'm ready to go ahead and get my lethal injection, but I'll tell you everything first.
He's bought into me. He's going to talk to me. Whatever he did, I'm going to get it.
Sean Great has confessed to the kidnapping and rape of Jane Doe, the murder of Elizabeth Griffith, and knowledge of the disappearance of Candace Cunningham. But Stacy Stanley is still missing, and Detective Major has a hunch he knows more about her as well. As the hours tick by in this very same room,
Yes,
you got more and more out of him.
that's right. It just kept coming out in layers, a little bit more and a little bit more. Are there any other girls in the house right now? Yeah,
One down in the basement.
down in the basement. What's her name?
Stacy.
He tells me that Stacy Stanley was in the basement of the home under a pile of trash.
Now remember, Stacy was that missing woman whose family had been searching for her after she was seen with a stranger changing her tire at that BP gas station. Sean says he was that stranger, and he tells Detective Major his version of what happened that night.
She came home with me. We kind of hit it off pretty good. And then it didn't. Just went sour fast. I just snapped on her.
The mood at the police division was shock. It was just chaotic and pretty unreal.
And then you get another disturbing call. There's another body in the basement.
Yes, if you go down the basement and there's space behind the stairwell, there was multiple bags of trash stacked up, and underneath the trash is where Stacy was. There was actually a picture of just her hand kind of sticking out of the trash, like eerily saying like, I'm here.
Have you ever seen anything like this in all your years of police work?
No, I've been on other homicides and other tragic cases, but not to this magnitude, no. A lot of our local community was coming to the area, and you could tell the feeling in the air was that the people knew that we found bodies in that house.
What started as a rescue ended with a gruesome discovery that only got worse. Now families wait to find out if those women are their loved ones.
I got a phone call saying I need to get to Ashland ASAP.
I don't want it to be my mom. I mean, nobody wants it to be their mom. I don't get to watch her grow old. My daughter don't get to watch my daughter grow up.
Honestly, I think that my sister's in that house and they're not going to know anything for a couple hours.
They pulled out a couple pictures. They're like, do you guys recognize that? I said, yeah, that's my mom's picture.
It was very traumatic, having to see that, and that was my mom laying there, you know.
It's bad enough what he did, but for some reason, thinking that he put her under trash. It makes it worse.
It still touches you.
It does. For me, the day that cases don't impact me would be the day that I need to pack it in.
You want it to touch you. Do you want to feel
I want it to touch me. I mean, I don't want to be in an interview and lose control, but these ladies mattered.
But Detective Major had to put aside her emotions. Sean Great had confessed to a third woman named Candace Cunningham.
Candace was a little tiny, vibrant woman, lived in the next county over, Richland County. Candace had not been reported missing, and Candace had dated Sean Great.
On her Facebook page, Candace posts about Sean Great, including this picture, and later writing, "I am back with Sean and love him." It was just 1 month before her murder. In the interrogation room, Sean describes strangling her in an abandoned house after an alleged altercation.
3 o'clock in the morning, I hit my face with a bag of tobacco and just stabbed.
After I was done interviewing him, which went all day, I had asked him if he would take me to where Candace's body was.
What's going through your mind?
I was hoping that he wouldn't shut down from just having the emotions of going back to that place. So this is the scene where the home was, where Candace Cunningham was living with Sean Great. So there was a home here. He burned it down after he murdered her in the home. Sean?
Investigators took video of Sean that day as he led them to where he left Candace's body.
He's agreed to come out, show us where he put the body.
He killed her in a house that was here and then dragged her body toward the ravine.
Prior to burning that down, he carried her body wrapped up in a blanket. He carried her to the ravine.
Yeah, I remember these rocks.
How far down?
I carried her truck fixed and up, straight up the hill about between 10 to 15 feet. There's big shrubs.
While you were here, Sean got emotional.
He did. When we rolled up, I actually had to ask him, "Are you okay?" He said, "Are you okay?" All right. And he said it was hard. It was hard.
What was it like to finally find this woman and give it some closure?
Like I wanted to go down to the ravine and rescue her, but she's gone. And it's frustrating that she hadn't been reported missing, that no one even knew at all.
As the investigation continues, Sean performs another show and tell.
I just lost it. And then I just turned her around.
Revealing more deadly secrets.
During the interrogation, you asked Sean to show you his strangulation technique.
He said, "I'll just do it on you." Kind of grinned.
Next to that desperate call for help from a woman being held captive, police are now investigating whether they have a serial killer on their hands.
Sean Michael Great is being held for kidnapping tonight, and the sheriff's department says he should be charged with murder.
Lord, I told that Undertaker, Undertaker, please drive slow.
The community response was one of just complete shock. People had no idea that something like this could happen here.
Even though I don't know them, we are thinking about them and praying for them.
All I kept saying was, "Oh my God." And it was just like, this is unreal. No, we're not talking about the same guy.
I was just like, how? I knew he had this anger, but when I first found out, I couldn't comprehend that this was something he had actually done.
Those closest to Great were surprised to learn of his killing spree, despite them having their own chilling experiences with him. His former girlfriend, Christina Hildreth, says Great once spied on her from inside her sofa.
He says, I've been living in the couch. He said, when you came in, you were sitting on me. I seen everything you did. He had cut a slit into the back of the couch, and he was crawling in and out of the couch, and he would come out at night. That was terrifying.
And his friend Tim Dennis claims he had a text exchange with Sean that made his blood run cold.
He had, just out of the clear blue, asked me if he could borrow $20. And I told him no. All of a sudden, here's this whole slew of scathing messages. And he told me, bed bugs are coming to your house, roaches are coming. And then he makes this statement. He says, meet the other me. Honestly, I just froze. The first thing that hit my mind is a monster.
Two days after his arrest, you go interview him again now with Detective Evans?
Yes, I did. I asked him if there was anything else he wanted to get off his chest.
Anything else you thought about that you haven't talked about?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Cold case. They've already found her. I'm thinking her name is Dana. I totally forget her name.
He tells me that he had killed a woman in Marion County
10 years earlier.
10 years earlier.
Dana.
He didn't know her name for sure.
Who was she?
She had come to his mother's house to sell magazines.
Sean says he got upset because the woman didn't deliver the magazines that Sean's mother had ordered.
He said he was in town and just happened to see her. So he said he made up a story that he had money back at his house.
So that's when I fronted her. So you're gonna rip me off like you did my mom, Dad? That's when I choked her out right here.
He said he placed her out by some railroad tracks. Her body had been found years and years ago. She just hadn't been identified.
Detective Major knows authorities will need to figure out who this Dana is, but they press on, probing Sean about key details of his other murders.
Detective Evans and I decided we might try to have him show us how he strangled the victims. So Brian Evans says, would you do this on a doll?
And what did he say?
He said, I'll just do it on you, and kind of grinned. I was like, okay. And then we got up.
So I roll the camera.
Okay, this is Detective Major. We have Detective Evans in the room, Sean Great in the room.
Then he kind of just gets behind Brian and does a hold on him.
Well, I had to grab her.
I look at Brian's eyes and I'm thinking, this is not good.
So I'm you, and you're Sean. So what did he do?
So he just came up behind. He said I'd get up behind him like this, and then he comes back. He locks this in, he locks this arm in, he locks this head here, and then he just pushes down and squeezes.
Wow. Wow.
And at that point, I kind of mouthed over to Detective Major that I'm not doing that again.
You could have lost consciousness in seconds. He could have killed you.
I didn't put a whole lot of thought into that. It just went to getting the evidence, and I feel I have some training that I don't believe he would have killed me.
Police don't normally get this kind of demonstrative evidence. You don't normally have a killer not only confess to a crime, but then actually show you how he did it.
How do you know to stop?
I'm showing up like this.
This morning, suspect Sean Great held on a $1 million bond and facing double murder and kidnapping charges.
Do you understand the nature of the three offenses charged in the complaint, Mr. Great?
Yes, Your Honor.
He seemed kind of unalarming. I could understand why maybe women were trusting of him or went with him willingly because he didn't look like a monster.
Law enforcement is on the hunt to figure out just who is this unidentified woman Sean Great has confessed to killing 10 years prior in neighboring Marion County.
Nobody knew who she was. It was a great mystery.
Investigators reached out to the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation.
My name is Samantha Molnar. My position at Ohio BCI is a forensic artist. I can do a clay facial reconstruction from the skeletal remains. We can actually 3D print an exact replica of the skull. I basically start doing the clay reconstruction from there, building the muscle structure on the face, placing the average tissue depth markers, and then kind of finishing the sculpture. We did receive some tips, but none of those tips led to an identity.
Detective Kim Major isn't just trying to crack the Sean Great case. She also has to juggle the full-time job of being a mom to 3 active kids.
All right, hook her up.
I'm always worried about her, no matter where she is. I would stay up at night, me and my little brother would, and just wait till she gets home.
I try to say that I am not overprotective of my kids, but I'm sure I am.
But could this case put Kim or her family in grave danger?
When the case was going on, our fair kicked off. I get a phone call, and it's a man, and he said, "I have your daughter." On Friday night, my husband coaches football. I actually took my younger kids to the football game, and I sat there, which was also surreal, seeing all the things around me and the lights.
People are happy.
They're happy, they're cracking the helmets. The band, watching my husband, hearing the whistles.
Friday Night Lights.
It's Friday Night Lights. That's small town America. And I brought my kids home, put them to bed.
That's when Detective Major's oldest son, Corbin, who's preparing to enter the police academy, comes into the room.
He's like, "What's going on, Mom?" I said, "Sean Great builds forts all over the place. He's like MacGyver. He stays in these things. But there's one in particular he keeps talking about."
He had a fort in the woods, and she explained to me where it was. And I remember there was a body recovery within quarter to half mile that deemed a drug overdose right on a gas line.
I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, there was a woman that died of an overdose, and they dumped her body there."
We also just learned a body was found in Ashland County. Police say a gas company worker found the body behind a tree on County Road 1908, just south of Route 30.
And he said, "Hold on a second."
I kind of marked out where she thought his fort exactly was and kind of marked the distance. It was on the same county road. I was like, there's no way this is just a coincidence. This has to be from him. It's just, there's no way it's not.
I said, "Honey, it's a overdose and a dumping." And he said, "That's because of her lifestyle. And people assume it's that." He said he did it. You have to go talk to him. You have to do something. The next morning, went in to the jail, pulled Sean Great out. There's a case from out in the county, meaning that we found a girl. And we're trying to see if you'll be honest, if that's something you had something to do with.
Rebecca Lacey.
Yes, sir.
I had a problem with her once.
31-year-old Rebecca Lacey's death had been ruled a drug overdose by the Ashland County coroner. But now Sean Great shares what he says happened to her.
We played a game of pool. I went to the bathroom, right? I had some money in my wallet. And that's the first thing I did was just check my wallet. And it was gone.
He said she had stolen a few dollars from him. And he said he had strangled her. He talks about borrowing a car and taking her body out and dumping her in my county.
This is where Rebecca Lacey's body was found.
Yes, right against this tree right here.
When was she found here?
March of 2015, her body was found, and she had been here for a couple months.
Hard to believe that such a heinous crime could have happened here.
Should be a place of solitude, but instead, it's a place where a woman's body was discarded like she didn't matter.
But Rebecca Lacey's case was public knowledge, and Detective Major needed proof that Sean was actually involved in her death. So she asked him about details from the crime scene.
What did Sean tell you about the placement of that memorial?
During the interview, when I had asked him to tell me some things that nobody would know, he said,
I can tell you the truth, because where I found the cross and stuff right now, she wasn't found there. She was found over by the tree.
He said you put the memorial in the wrong place.
Yes. He was right. Nobody would have known that.
With this new information, authorities reopened the Rebecca Lacey case, ruled her death a homicide, and later charged Sean Great with her murder. Detective Major had formed a unique bond with Sean Great. You spent 33 hours with Sean Great?
Yeah, 8 interviews, 33 hours over the course of over a month.
So much so that they've been compared to Clarice Starling and Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs.
Starling.
Well, Clarice, have the lambs stopped screaming?
What kind of toll does it take on you?
It may have made me a little more hypersensitive. When the case was going on, our fair kicked off. I get a phone call, and it's a man, and he said, I have your daughter. And I said, who is this? And he won't answer me. And then he hangs up. They contact a guy who made the phone call. It was just a coincidence. The case probably changed how I handled something like that. That was a rough one for me that night.
A month after he's arrested, there's another chilling development. A fellow inmate tells you that Sean Great is targeting you, that he wants to kill you.
He said that Sean Great told him he was trying to find my gun on my body, that he thought it would be the ultimate to kill me.
This information did not lead to any additional charges against Great, but future meetings between Detective Major and Sean Great took place at the jail, where no weapons are allowed.
All along, do you think he was plotting to kill you?
I didn't know that initially. I went into a later interview with him. I said, are you still having that hunger that you talk about? Can I ask you something? Will you be honest? Do you still have thoughts?
About that desire?
Yeah.
I'm afraid the desire probably grew when there wasn't no desire at first, but it might have gotten more. Now it's feel like something that I had to do. I'm feeling it now.
He told you he still had that hunger to kill.
Yes.
Sean Great says he had a hunger to kill. But Jane Doe and the victims' families had a hunger for justice. And now in court, they come face to face with a man they say is a monster.
It's April 2018, and Sean Great goes on trial at this courthouse for crimes against 3 of his victims, Jane Doe, Elizabeth Griffith, and Stacy Stanley.
It was the trial that everybody was waiting for. They wanted to know if this community, if these families were going to get justice.
This is not a whodunit case. This is a he did it case. The defendant subsequently, over the course of multiple interviews, confessed to every element of every crime with which he is charged.
I ask that you consider that Sean freely and voluntarily gave information
during several interviews which implicated himself in several serious offenses.
Jane Doe comes face to face with her abductor, bravely taking the stand against Sean Great, detailing her horrifying ordeal.
It was probably the most crucial testimony in the case.
How was he choked?
With both hands around my neck.
Did he let go of your neck?
I think when I stopped struggling and fighting, he asked me if I had enough. And I think I just remained motionless. And so he released his hands.
She testified about the terror that she went through during the time that she was kidnapped and sexually assaulted.
At the trial, they played the audio of your interview.
They did.
With Sean.
Yes.
And I entered the interview room to interview Sean Great.
You can hear my heart beating at key times during the interview. Who was that you were talking to on the phone? It made me realize that maybe it affects me physically more than I recognize.
Prosecutors reveal gruesome details about the deaths of two of his alleged victims.
People don't understand when you were in that trial, what you see and what you hear, you can't unsee or unhear ever. And those thoughts are always in your mind. You can't forget it.
It was too gruesome. It hurt you that much.
Yeah.
Not only that, even talking about it today. Why?
Just what she went through. It wasn't fair.
Sorry.
We, the jury, being duly impaneled, find the defendant, Sean M. Great, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of aggravated murder.
Sean Great, guilty on 2 counts of aggravated murder as well as rape and kidnapping. But justice is bittersweet.
He devastated so many people. He changed our lives, and he took away not only Elizabeth's innocence, but the innocence of all of us that believed we were safe.
The day of his sentencing, Sean Great addressed the court.
I ask you, maybe forgive me, find in your heart someday. I know not today, someday. This mess, I'm sorry for all human beings to have to hear this. Okay? I'm sorry. I can't change nothing. Believe me, I would. Not for me, but for you guys.
He asked us in court to forgive him, not for him, but for us. And obviously, I haven't forgave him for what he did.
Real justice would be for you to come with me for about 5 minutes, burn in hell.
The victim impact statements were extremely emotional and very powerful. We heard from Stacey Stanley's son and 2 of her brothers.
It doesn't affect just one person when you kill them. It affects everybody. You ever bury your mother? I had to pick a casket out. I didn't expect that this young.
The offender was found guilty, and a sentence of death by lethal injection shall be imposed on Mr. Great.
Amazing grace, how sweet.
At the trial, you had justice for Stacy Balloons.
Yeah.
And Stanley Strong. And you released him when he got the death penalty.
Yes, there was quite a few people that showed up out there to show the support for the family, and that we were glad that he got convicted and received the death penalty. I mean, that was what we were hoping for.
Praise God.
In March 2019, Sean Great pleads guilty to the murders of Rebecca Lacey and Candace Cunningham in Richland County. But his first victim remained unidentified.
You are what you eat. So the different things you're exposed to in your environment all show up in your bones. We learned that she likely was from a southern state somewhere between Texas and Florida.
Then finally, a match.
Now this woman, a victim of serial killer Sean Great, has a face and a name.
In June of 2018, the community of Ashland, Ohio gathered at the site of Jane Doe's frantic 911 call.
Today, that house was finally demolished, bringing closure for residents and relatives of the victims.
Many people felt like they needed to be here today.
After we found out that Elizabeth was one of the people in the house, I would have nightmares about it. And I would see her in the window asking for help. I wanted them to tear it down so bad, and I was so happy the day that they did.
You were there when you saw the house on Covert Court destroyed, demolished.
I was.
What did that feel like?
It was a tangible piece that was destroyed, but the weight of the situation is still here.
2007, the remains of a female.
1 year later, another step forward, a new development in the search for the identity of Great's first known victim.
The preliminary results indicated that the victim was very likely Dana Nicole Lowry of Minden, Louisiana.
So genetic genealogy was able to provide us a family and a potential identity of this person. And what we did next was go down and swab the daughter of Dana. We were able to directly compare the DNA from the daughter to the DNA from the remains to be able to confirm that was Dana Lowry.
Sean Great pleaded guilty to Dana Lowry's murder. So now there are 6 known victims, and only one of them survived, Jane Doe. What would you say to that woman if you were able to talk to her today?
How brave she was. She saved so many people. If she hadn't been brave and did what she did, we wouldn't have caught him. And then how many more women would have suffered?
Kim Major has retired from the Ashland Police Department, and she now works as the Safety Services Director at Ashland University. And she's written a book about the Sean Great case.
I don't want to forget this case. I don't want anyone to forget it. These women could have been anyone.
You titled the book A Hunger to Kill.
Those are his words. He has a hunger to kill.
Do you think there are other victims out there?
I don't think this is a closed book situation. I think more information may come out.
We never get to say our goodbyes.
As for the Stanley family, they're still dealing with the tremendous pain of losing Stacy. You miss her still?
Oh yeah. It's been 8 years. I haven't even opened a box of anything of hers. I just kind of put it behind like it doesn't exist to an extent.
What keeps you going?
I know she would want us to go on. And the boys. It just breaks my heart to see what they go through every day.
Right, you ready, girlfriend?
And like he just had a new baby.
Grandma's? Was she grandma's?
And he took her out and set her on his mom's bench at the cemetery.
Hello there. Is grandma? I talked myself into going out there. Oh, that was so cute. She was smiling so big.
It's beautiful.
And that's hard for me to sit and see my daughter never going to beat my mom. Oh, she was a great grandmother to her first granddaughter, and I'm sure she would have loved mine just as much. My mom did not deserve that. Any of the women didn't deserve that.
Kept saying, no, ask God to raise her.
I wanna be a cowboy.
JonBenet Ramsey, the story you can't forget, the case you think you know.
With all that attention, all that scrutiny, why hasn't this crime been solved?
One simple reason: the police have refused help that was offered, and it could have helped.
But now is the new documentary series changing the picture.
Go back to the damn drawing board.
So early on, they locked into this crazy idea that the parents were responsible. They get tunnel vision.
With new DNA technology, is a solution closer than ever?
We think the crime can be solved.
That's Siren John Ramsey.
Tonight, the new John Ramsey interview.
You dwell on your loss, and you just can't do that.
And what you've never seen before. From the iconic Barbara Walters sit-down.
This was a monster that killed our daughter.
And the police think that it's you.
Now the detective who defied the police.
They knew at the time that there was DNA and that it was not from Ramsey's DNA.
And he just said, I have a name. I want you to write it down. And I did. And he said, that's where you start. All but one person on that list is innocent.
Then you got your killer.
She was a beautiful child of God. We knew she was special. We knew she was going to make a difference. We certainly didn't expect it to be this way. And yet, here's a child who is known literally around the world. So she did become special.
JonBenet Ramsey. She enjoys painting ceramics.
She is the special little girl, forever 6 years old. While JonBenet Ramsey remains frozen in time, her father has endured nearly 3 decades without justice, without answers, and without his daughter. I sat down for a new interview with the now 81-year-old John Ramsey.
Hello, sir. Byron Fitz.
Siren John Ramsey. I had JonBenet bless my life for 6 years, and she really was a blessing. Just an amazing little kid.
She was daddy's girl.
She was daddy's girl, big time.
Do you allow yourself to think, what if this hadn't happened?
I don't. I did run into one of her little friends on the street who was now, 30 and an adult. And that was a little bit of a jolt to think, wow, could have been JonBenet. She's still my little girl. That's the picture I have in my head when I think of her.
Ramsey has renewed hope that his daughter's killer can finally be found, confident that advances in DNA technology are the key to solving the mystery.
There's been a number of old cold cases solved using this genealogy research.
There was no more important story in the country than the disappearance and the death of your daughter.
Police have still not named a suspect.
It's now been 12 days since JonBenet Ramsey was murdered.
Officers have spent more than 3,000 hours processing evidence and interviewing more than 90 people. With all that attention, all that scrutiny, why hasn't this crime been solved?
One simple reason: the police have refused help that was offered. They had no experience. They didn't have a homicide department.
That police response and its aftermath is the focus of a new Netflix docuseries, Cold Case: Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey?
Someone killed this 6-year-old child.
You have a small town police force that gets a crime that they're not used to.
Is it fair to question the Boulder Police Department's experience, ability to investigate homicide?
I don't think so. Just because you have one homicide in a year, I think is actually a sign of remarkable strength in a community.
This was the first murder in Boulder that year, and it was December 26. So they don't have a lot of murders, particularly where a little girl is tortured to death.
John Ramsey worked with award-winning documentarian Joe Berlinger, who says he wanted to shed new light on what he calls one of the most brutalized families in American history.
Obviously, he wasn't legally wrongfully convicted, but he was wrongfully convicted, and his wife, Patsy, the family were wrongfully convicted in the court of public opinion.
You still feel like it's a cloud over your family name?
Yeah.
Because I guess because there's still people in the country who still believe
absolutely
that your wife were responsible.
No doubt. And we could have the killer confessed, arrested, in prison, and there'd still be 5 to 10% of the population that, yeah, it was the father, or yeah, it was the mother.
The hit docuseries has sparked a new generation of interest on social media.
Okay, one of my girlfriends and I have a new JonBenet theory, and I want to float it. I just finished the JonBenet Ramsey new documentary on Netflix, and I need to know what happened to JonBenet Ramsey.
With the wave of renewed scrutiny, the Boulder Police Department issued a video statement last month.
So much of how law enforcement works has changed in the last 30 years.
There are a number of things that people have pointed to throughout the years that could have been done better, and we acknowledge that is true. However, it is important to emphasize that while we cannot go back to that horrible day in 1996, our goal is to find JonBenét Ramsey's killer.
That horrible day in 1996 began at Christmas time in the storybook neighborhood where the Ramsey family lived, in Boulder, Colorado.
There's a saying here in Colorado that Boulder is 30 square miles of fantasy surrounded by reality.
It's very wealthy. It's well-to-do.
John and Patsy Ramsey lived in a 6,700 square feet Tudor there on 15th Street.
John Ramsey was the CEO of a computer services company. He'd suffered tragedy before when his 22-year-old daughter, Beth, died in a car accident. In 1980, he married his new wife, Patsy.
By all accounts, they were a happy couple. Patsy was a high society woman.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a wife and a mother. John used to tell people that I invested in futures, the futures of my children. That's how I usually answer my occupation.
John and Patsy Ramsey had 2 children together. Their firstborn was Burke, 9 years old, and JonBenét, 6.5, in kindergarten.
My name is John Andrew Ramsey, JonBenét's half-brother. JonBenét was just an energetic and fun kid.
Patsy Ramsey was a former beauty queen, Miss West Virginia. By the time JonBenét was 4 years old, she was in the pageant system herself.
I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart.
I really believe that if we hadn't seen the beauty pageant photos of JonBenét Ramsey, it might have just gone into the ether as another child murder. This one captivated us because we saw the beauty pageant pictures.
Hello, I'm Patsy Ramsey. This is JonBenét. She's 4, Burke is 7.
Christmas was Patsy's favorite time, and she really went all out. She had a Christmas tree for every room, and every tree had a theme. The windows were done with garland. The staircases had garland. There were red ribbons everywhere.
And from all of us at our house to everyone at your house, Merry Christmas and the happiest of New Year's.
There was plenty to celebrate that Christmas of 1996. Patsy had been battling ovarian cancer and was finally in remission. On Christmas morning, the family opened presents in their home.
They were going to a friend's house for dinner that night.
We were going to leave early the next morning for a trip to our summer cottage in Michigan. So we came home, set the alarm, and went to sleep.
This is your first extended interview.
In 2000, Barbara Walters spoke to the couple about that terrible day.
You get up, you're dressed. What happens?
I went down our steps from our bedroom to the second floor. Then I started walking down the spiral staircase. And as I came to the bottom of the stairs, there were 3 pages neatly laid across one of the runs of the stairway.
She picked up the note and she started to read it.
I just remember when I read, "We have your daughter," it just, this overwhelming fear.
And then?
And then I just screamed for John, screamed.
Take me back to that day.
I was shaving or getting dressed, and I heard Patsy scream, and we called the police immediately.
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on. What's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Report 911 emergency.
I was the call taker that night shift when the call came in.
Police. What's going on? 15th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There, we have a There's a note left and our daughter's gone. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? Oh my God! Please.
She's hysterical. She says there's a kidnapping.
Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out and she's right here. Oh my God, please.
The note said, if you do anything, if police come, if FBI come, your daughter will die. You called 911.
Yes, I did. I had to do something. I had to take action.
And I mean, all this happened in a matter of moments.
Patsy Ramsey called 911 at 5:52 a.m., and the first officer from the Boulder Police Department arrives 3 minutes later at 5:55.
We called friends for help at that point. Your daughter is gone.
Desperate.
She's in the hands of a madman.
My phone rang. Pam, they've got her. What do you mean they've got her? They've kidnapped JonBenét. She's gone.
What was the atmosphere like as you sat and waited?
Well, it was awful. First of all, we didn't know whether the kidnapper was going to call that day because the note said, I will call you tomorrow. Get plenty of rest. I was deathly afraid that tomorrow was in fact the 27th.
You lose all perception of time, of place. You've just been dealt a horrible, crushing blow.
At 6 o'clock on the morning of December 26, the police came in and did a cursory search of the residence. It was a lavish home with about 18 rooms.
The police did a terrible, terrible job securing that scene. And if you don't secure the scene, you don't get good evidence.
The mistakes they made were outrageous. They were mystifying. They were mistake after mistake after mistake.
People were streaming through that house. They were in the kitchen. They were in the living room. There were some friends of Patsy's that were helping her wipe up the kitchen. There could have been fingerprints there.
You had friends that were Windexing the sink and washing dishes. And
People were making toast in the kitchen. And yes, a kidnapping is a crime scene, but we were so focused on getting JonBenét back. That was the task.
What we have learned is that everyone should have been sequestered into an area so that people weren't roaming around the house.
And that was a mistake on my part. The reason I didn't is because these people were the Ramsey support system. There was no information at all to indicate the family was involved at that point.
It was a crime scene, and it was getting contaminated. The note was being passed around and reviewed by all of their friends.
Of all of the evidence left behind, that ransom note is the most baffling. Number one, it is too damn long. A ransom note is not that long. A ransom note says, I have your child, I want $1 million, I'll call you later.
The note was 3 pages and written in longhand.
That ransom note was the War and Peace of ransom notes.
It begins, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully.
You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills.
You think about this number and how is it relevant? And it's relevant because John Ramsey got a bonus from his company for $118,000. How many people knew that? I'm going to guess not a lot of people.
This footage of Barbara Walters' interview with the Ramseys in 2000 has never aired until now.
the ransom note asked for an odd figure, $118,000. That was a bonus that you had received.
Well, that was one of the theories that I came up with, that it was close to the net amount I'd received that year as a bonus. 118 means something to the killer. We know that. We believe that. Whether it's tied to my bonus or something only the killer knows, we don't know.
Did you know that your husband got this kind of a bonus?
Not at the time, no.
Lou Smit, a detective who would later be brought into the case to re-examine the evidence, noticed something else unusual about the ransom note. Some of the phrases appear to mimic lines in movies about kidnappings. Lou Smith recorded his observations about the case. John?
The movie Ransom was playing in Boulder.
I have your son.
Oh, Jesus.
I want $2 million.
Oh, God.
In that particular movie, a fat cat industrialist, his son was kidnapped. There's a lot of the same verbiage in this note as was in even a note that was written in that particular movie.
If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies.
A kidnapper says a similar line to Clint Eastwood in the movie Dirty Harry.
If you talk to anyone, I don't care if it's a Pekingese pissing against the lamppost, the girl dies.
You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. That's a line used by a terrorist in the movie Speed.
Do not attempt to grow a brain.
Our guy's a real watcher of that particular type of movies.
The ransom note was a vital piece of evidence. Police need to figure out who wrote it and when.
On the morning of December 26th, the minutes ticked by as the Ramseys waited to hear from the kidnapper.
It was awful.
The kidnappers had written that they would telephone you by 10 a.m.
All I prayed for was he would call.
But it would be a discovery inside the house that would change everything.
I was praying. Linda Arndt had said to me, we're hopeful that the kidnappers will just drop JonBenet off someplace. And I kept looking out the window, clutching this cross and just imagining that she was going to come running down the street.
They're waiting for a telephone call from the kidnapper. What's going to happen next?
My former ABC News colleague, Elizabeth Vargas, did one of the first extensive interviews with Detective Linda Arndt.
10 o'clock comes and goes, and there's no acknowledgement that the deadline imposed by the author of the ransom note has come and gone.
Nobody said it's 10 o'clock and the kidnappers haven't called?
Nobody said that.
According to Arndt, neither John nor Patsy Ramsey seemed to mark it or freak out about it. She says later she found it curious that John Ramsey checked his mail in the kitchen in the middle of the crisis.
How are you supposed to act when you think?
Oh, I don't know for sure, but I really thought I could get JonBenet back if I kept my wits about me. You know, there was a pile of envelopes that had come through our front door slot. I was looking for another communication for the kidnapper. She should have been doing that.
Linda Arndt tells the restless John, why don't you look around the house, see if anything is missing or looks strange.
Check the house, top to bottom. Look for anything that might belong to JonBenet that is in place where it shouldn't be.
Were you at that point giving him perhaps a little bit of distraction, busy work?
I wanted to lessen his anxiety by giving him a job to do, a task, a meaningless task.
John took a friend with him. They went to the basement, and John opened the door.
You opened the door to the small room.
She clearly felt in danger at that moment. She made it clear that she thought John Ramsey killed his daughter and that he might kill her.
Linda Arndt's ability to look in someone's eyes and determine they were a killer is a remarkable talent.
We reached out to Detective Arndt to ask her about her reaction back then, but she did not respond. Ramsey has long been upset with her.
She said, yeah, I saw it in John's eyes. I knew he was guilty. That was the detective that was there that morning.
How is it that you have all these cops searching a home and nobody finds the body, but you asked John Ramsey to go look for things out of the ordinary, and he finds his daughter in a room that had never been opened by anybody in law enforcement? That's crazy.
He lays her on the living room floor where just a few minutes before, friends and neighbors have been walking and, bringing in fibers and whatever to contaminate the scene. And then the coup de grace. He grabs a blanket, which is full of who knows what kind of contaminants, and throws it over the body.
Patsy was being kept out of the room, and I didn't want Patsy to see JonBenet laying there like that.
I remember walking in and seeing her lying there in front of the Christmas tree. I knelt down over her and just laid my body on her body and my cheek against her cheek, and it was cold. And Father Raw was there. And he started saying the last rites, I believe. And I just kept saying, no, no, ask God. Ask God to raise her.
So the kidnapping of JonBenet Ramsey has turned into the murder of JonBenet.
JonBenet Ramsey was violated and murdered in a horrific way. Many injuries to this little girl's body. The x-ray of her skull shows a massive fracture.
This is an 8-inch skull fracture. So we're talking a major blunt force. This is just a massive blow.
But the ultimate cause of her death was strangulation with something called a garrote.
It's a device of a string, and it's wrapped around what ends up being a piece of a paintbrush. And what happens is, as JonBenet is losing consciousness, she's leaning forward. And so this gets tighter and tighter, and you can see how it cuts into my hand. You can see exactly why it cut into her neck. And that ultimately, according to the ME, is what killed her.
If you look at the autopsy report, JonBenet died while being tortured. She was alive while she was being tortured.
There were signs that JonBenet had also been sexually abused. The broken pieces of paintbrush that were used for the garrote were also used to sexually assault her.
There were 4 people in that house, and 1 died overnight. From the very beginning, they suspected the parents.
Within minutes of JonBenet's body being found, this was who they were going to go after. And that's what they did.
The police are thinking, we got to talk to those parents, and we got to talk to them right now before they start getting their story straight together.
When JonBenet's body was brought out past the candy canes decorating the front of the house, there were only a couple of reporters outside to capture that. And then the media frenzy started.
To JonBenet Ramsey, the little girl in Colorado, was murdered.
Beauty queen JonBenet. JonBenet's murder has frightened residents of Boulder.
News outlets from around the world had descended upon Boulder and were just hiding in trees and bushes and digging through our trash, following me around town. I mean, it was war.
The JonBenet Ramsey case was completely out of control.
And you also have to remember the O.J. Simpson case had wrapped up. The 24-hour news cycle, their content had dried up. And so along came the Ramsey family, and we fit right into that slot.
JonBenet Ramsey was a precocious 6-year-old. She had been strangled to death in the basement of her own home.
You have the shock, this incredibly horrendous crime. And then you have these videos that surface of this beautiful young girl.
JonBenet Ramsey! Dark blonde hair and green eyes.
Dancing in her costumes, and those were the first viral videos.
She'd like to become an Olympic ice skater.
People who didn't really grow up in the South and understand that industry, the industry of beauty pageants, thought it was the most horrible exploitation of a child they'd ever seen. So when those images started playing across the television, people started thinking, what's wrong with that family?
For many, this was their first glimpse into the world of child pageants. Long before shows
tested 15
like Toddlers and Tiaras.
Stage number 65, Alana.
But John Ramsey tells me it was something that would bring joy to JonBenet and his wife, Patsy.
The pageant photos came out, and that made it more juicy.
Yeah.
And that was just something that Patsy and JonBenet had fun with.
JonBenet never participated in what I would call a beauty contest. She participated in a talent show.
She would sing and dance?
She would sing, she would dance.
I want to be a cowboy sweetheart. I want to learn to rope and to ride.
These were such a small, minuscule part of what JonBenet was all about. I think it's just because the photographs were so available and so beautiful that it took on a life of its own.
It's part of what turned it into an international circus.
This little girl's image was everywhere overnight.
The biggest negative factor about John and Patsy Ramsey was that they had allowed their daughter to be in child beauty pageant contests, and people did not like them.
But to think they would murder their own daughter was unimaginable. Yet police found evidence that, in their minds, pointed towards the Ramseys.
When you start with children of this age, when they die, tend to die at the hands of their parents. So the focus is naturally going to be on the parents to begin with. Now, in the house, the ransom note is written on a pad that belongs to Patsy. This is the notepad. This location right here is where the note was physically found by Patsy. The pen that was used was in the house.
The garrote that was used in JonBenet's murder also got the attention of investigators because of what it was made of.
It basically is an artist's paintbrush that's broken. And what's important is that it actually came from Patsy's art supply.
And there were even fibers on the backside of the duct tape that had been on JonBenet's mouth from Patsy's clothing.
And that was important, but Patsy lived in the house, so those could have been there anyway.
The police started thinking, well, maybe this is just a cover-up, that the Ramseys harmed their child some way, then panicked and tried to create basically a kidnapping scenario.
Patsy and John should have been taken to the police station immediately for separate interviews, for examination of their body for defensive wounds, for collection of their clothing. That never happened.
At this point, they haven't interviewed the mother or father. Not surprisingly, they're still very grief-stricken. They have not been in any kind of condition to be interviewed.
My father, myself, we all marched into that police station, gave blood, we gave hair, we gave fingerprints. The thing that really stuck with me is two detectives hand me their business cards, and one says narcotics officer and the other says auto theft. And I buried my head into my hands because I knew at that point we were in a bad spot.
Though the police had spoken to John Ramsey after JonBenet's body was found, what they really wanted to do was formally interrogate the couple.
The police are thinking, we got to talk to those parents, and we got to talk to them right now before they start getting their story straight together.
Your lawyers advised you then not to submit to police questions. Why not? People say, wouldn't you have wanted to tell them everything?
Well, I don't recall that our lawyers told us that at the time. We said, yeah, we want to keep working with you, but can't you come here? We can't go out. Patsy was in bed. Patsy was barely able to move. We were perfectly willing and anxious to work with the police to find the killer. We had a higher priority at that point, and that was to bury our daughter.
The family is flying the body back to Atlanta for burial.
On New Year's Eve, JonBenet was laid to rest just outside Atlanta, Georgia.
This service is in loving memory of JonBenet Patricia Ramsey.
We flew back to Atlanta to bury JonBenet. Atlanta being our home. Atlanta being where my oldest sister Beth is buried.
We give thanks today for JonBenet, for the love that she had for her parents.
I want to go back to the funeral.
Whatever we do, we're going to go through it together. We may not get far, but sure as the star, wherever we are, it's together.
Wherever we are, it's together.
We sang that. She and I sang that together. We'd sing it driving in the car, and we just knew that we would always be together in everything. I wanted my children to know that that I was with them through thick and thin, regardless of what happened in life. Unconditional love.
Oh, look at that. You can go places now.
Everybody wanted to see these parents. Everybody wanted to talk to these parents, especially the police.
When you realized that you two were the prime suspects, what did you think?
The Boulder police did not interrogate the Ramseys, but they remained the main suspects. Many people found the Ramseys' behavior peculiar and suspicious, and from that, many presumed they must be guilty.
When you realized that you two were the prime suspects, what did you think? What did you feel? What did you say?
Well, we were outraged. We were shocked. How could they think that? We were a normal family.
I just didn't believe it. You just can't believe it. I mean, you were suffering from having lost our child. And then for someone to accuse you, it's just, you can't believe that would happen.
Then 6 days after the murder, they go on CNN and say they didn't do it.
If anyone knows anything, please help us.
We've sensed from our friends that this tragedy has touched not just ourselves and our friends, but many people.
As a mother, my heart went out to this couple.
And if I were a resident of Boulder, I will tell my friends to keep your babies close to you. There's someone out there.
Some people thought it was odd they were talking to the public rather than to the police.
You did an interview on CNN. Why did you do that?
We did it reluctantly and at the insistence of some friends who could see that we were being painted as guilty.
Unfortunately, at that time, we were when we look back at it, we were so distraught and medicated. It was probably not giving the impression that he had hoped we would achieve.
Police end their 10-day search of the Ramsey house and remove the crime scene tape.
It is unknown if the family intends to resume residency at the home. We have no comment on the whereabouts of the family at this time.
Starting from the beginning of this case, we, the media, lapped up what the Boulder Police Department wanted to tell us about what they were doing in the JonBenét Ramsey case.
For the most part, the police didn't say much. They didn't leak a lot of information. But when they did, it was major. They thought the mother did it.
Some people who believe Patsy killed her daughter believe it was over bedwetting and then staged it to look like an intruder. The bedwetting theory was a big theory at the time.
I'm a cancer survivor of stage 4 cancer. When you are standing on the brink of death with a terminal illness, your priorities suddenly line up. Bedwetting is totally insignificant. I love my children. I wouldn't harm them for anything in the world.
But many Americans were riveted by the possibility that the Ramseys might have done this.
Some of the authorities have said that you staged this, that you loosely tied your daughter's hands, that you put the noose, the garrote, to make it look as if some terrible person had done this, that this whole picture was staged.
Well, that's absurd. This was done by a terrible person. The garrote was deeply embedded in JonBenét's throat. Her hands were tightly bound. I couldn't get the knot untied. I tried to get it untied even before I brought her upstairs. And to say that we accidentally murdered our daughter and then staged this is nonsense.
Staged it, why would we have disturbed it?
Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, did either of you have anything to do with the death of your daughter?
No.
No. Mr. Ramsey, did you kill JonBenét?
No, I did not.
Mrs. Ramsey, did you kill your daughter?
No, I did not kill my daughter.
How do you feel when I ask you these questions?
Insulted, pain, hurtful. How can I tell you how much I love my daughter? I love her from the depths of my being. It's just unimaginable.
There was a Gallup poll at the time that said something like 70% of the American public thought that you or your wife were guilty.
I remember reading that. And it's like, well, I get it. That's what you were told over and over again.
There's so many puzzle pieces here that just don't fit.
Do you really think your daughter's murderer will be found?
Yes, I do. Because the killer has never been pursued. An objective, wide investigation hasn't taken place. The parents have been focused on it. That's all that's been done. I think it's solvable. I really believe it's solvable given today's technology.
There are a lot of people in this country who hope that that crime is solved in your lifetime.
The suspect might be out there and be someone who's completely unknown, who has never been on anyone's radar.
What we know is that just within a few mile radius of the Ramseys' home, there was approximately 38 to 40 sex offenders in that area. And the question is, have they all been completely vetted?
And decades later, granddaughters of one of the investigators joined the search for the killer.
There's a lot more evidence to cover and more myths to debunk.
But I do want to get the truth out there. Was it an accident? Was it intentional? Premeditated?
I want to say something to the person or persons that took this baby from us. The list of suspects narrows. Soon there will be no one on the list but you.
Our killer, John Bonet. How many victims does he have in the past? And how many victims is he going to have in the future?
Tonight, the new focus on one of the most haunting unsolved cases of the last 30 years. Will the spotlight push the police for further DNA testing?
I just need some specifics from the police. Are you doing this? Are you doing this?
Now, new interviews.
They targeted you, John. They wanted to hurt you. And they did that by killing your daughter.
What you've never heard before from Patsy Ramsey.
The police were more concerned with feeding the frenzy of media sharks every day than in finding the killer of our daughter.
The detective who left the police to pursue his own investigation.
Lou dedicated a big part of his life to finding JonBenet's murderer.
Detective Lou Smith was like, whoa.
He just said, I have a name. I want you to write it down.
Is the answer in the list he left behind?
Our grandfather was a detective on one of the biggest unsolved murders in our generation.
Do you think if they'd taken the help offered 28 years ago, this case would have been solved by now?
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt.
There's a good opportunity to really find out who did this.
JonBenet Ramsey!
JonBenet was an entertainer. She would entertain at the drop of a hat.
She loved to sing and dance and perform. It was a natural for her.
Thank you.
I competed with JonBenet. She had all these wonderful costumes and outfits, and she had this presence.
Third runner-up, JonBenet Ramsey.
It wasn't really a competition to her. It was more of like, this is fun. Like, let's go on stage and do that.
My name is JonBenet Ramsey, and I'm 5.5.
What is your favorite animal at the zoo?
The monkeys, because they laugh and stuff and hang around.
Today, JonBenet Ramsey would have been 34 years old.
I was her age. She would be my age now. She would be pursuing her own career. She never got to grow up. She is frozen in time now.
Case right. And, I think we're making efforts to meet that challenge by involving people like Lou Smith.
My name is Lou Smith. I'm a retired homicide detective from the Colorado Springs Police Department.
legendary guy. And he said, I follow the evidence. I have got to follow the evidence. Doesn't matter what my opinion is, what I might think. I follow the evidence. And he did. And that takes a lot of discipline.
Smith had a history of closing cases.
He had such tenacity. He was a bulldog. Once he got something in his mind, once he got the reins in his teeth, he was not letting go.
Lou Smith was my father. He was just known as, the detective that solved cases.
1025.
When he got to a murder scene, he spent time dictating everything he saw. Where the sun was in the sky, what the weather conditions were like, what the neighboring houses looked like.
The legend of Lou Smith is now the stuff of podcasts with granddaughters Jessa and Lexi unspooling the crime for a new generation.
He advocated for the victim and stood in their shoes.
So that's why we've chosen The Victim's Shoes as our podcast name. Prior to this case, Lou Smith had investigated over 200 homicide cases that led to arrests and convictions. Lou dedicated a big part of his life to finding JonBenét's murderer.
When he started his investigation, he felt like everybody else did, that it was probably one of the two parents.
It seemed as though the parents were probably involved in it. I thought this would be a fairly easy case. I thought it would be a slam dunk. And I even remember talking to my daughter, and I kind of joked with her, saying that, if somebody did get in the house, it must have been Santa Claus coming down the chimney.
It was within a couple of days after my dad started on the investigation, when he had a chance to review pictures, the evidence, that he was already saying, I think that they need to look the other way. He was already noting in his journal that he felt that they needed to look at an intruder.
Lou came up with the intruder theory. You can't think about that theory without associating it with Lou Smith.
The first thing that stood out to him was an open window in the basement. There was a suitcase propped up against it.
He didn't buy the Boulder Police Department's conclusion that no one could get in that basement window. He began to say maybe somebody did get into that house.
And I'll show you how easily it can be done.
So what did Lou Smith do? He went and climbed in the window himself with a camera rolling to prove that it could be done.
It really wasn't that difficult coming in that window.
But is Smith's own theory compromised by the very crime scene photos he himself has studied?
There are cobwebs in the window, which could support that no one did go through this window. The big question is, could you have gotten through this window, this small window, without disturbing this cobweb? I think the answer to that is maybe. But the other important point is, how soon was this picture taken after JonBenet was killed? Because spiders can replicate webs very fast.
Also found in the basement by JonBenét's body, a shoe print, a high-tech brand that did not match any of the shoes in the Ramsey's house.
The investigators believe, and maybe rightly so, that that's the bad guy's footprint.
The counter-argument is that footprint image could have been inadvertently left by police officers at the scene. But a more disturbing image in Lou Smith's investigation comes from two marks left on JonBenét's face and back.
The marks themselves, both on the back and on the face, were the same distance apart. Suddenly a little light went on, and it was just like, wait a minute, it was a stun gun.
Smith looked at other murders where a stun gun was known to have been used. He examined photos of a crime victim who had a known stun gun wound.
And the marks are very similar to the face of JonBenet.
He also looked into an experiment performed using stun guns on pigs. These marks were also the same as the marks found on JonBenet.
When we did the pigs, we get perfect marks, just almost like on the back of JonBenet.
This brings back our grandpa's whole motto that things are usually what they seem. Don't make it complicated.
To make things less complicated, Smith transferred all his knowledge and thoughts about the case to VHS tape, leaving behind a 6-hour video presentation of his intruder theory.
There's no reason at all for the Ramseys to use a stun gun, and the Ramseys don't have a stun gun. If it's not a stun gun, what is it? That's the question I always ask. You tell me what it is.
Lou Smith stood up and said, wait a second. We need to look at this again. It actually is possible. It actually is plausible. And in his mind, it's actually the most likely scenario. But there have been challenges from the beginning of this case. There were published reports that the Boulder Police Department refused to accept assistance from outside law enforcement.
Denver police called and offered 2 experienced homicide detectives to come work at Boulder under their direction full-time. They turned it down.
Do you think if they'd taken the help offered 28 years ago, this case would have been solved by now?
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt. I've been told by experienced homicide detectives over the years, this is not a hard case to solve, but they needed to be on it immediately.
Lou Smith thought that the Ramseys were being targeted unfairly.
Thought there was something drastically wrong. I had seen evidence of an intruder.
One thing the police and the district attorney do agree on, both want the Ramseys to come in for a formal videotaped interrogation. And when that day finally comes, it gets heated.
Go back to the damn drawing board. I didn't do it.
Within a few weeks of JonBenet's murder, police had an important clue: the discovery of foreign DNA found underneath her fingernails and in her underwear.
DNA that does not match the Ramsey family, and it shows a foreign male presence. They sat on that for months.
They knew at the time that there was DNA in her panties. That it was mixed foreign DNA, and that it was not the Ramsey's DNA. Not Patsy's, not John's, and not Burke's.
Detective Lou Smith was like, whoa, while you're pouring water all over the intruder theory, you're not revealing that you have unidentified DNA and it doesn't match anybody in the Ramsey family.
Lou is just incensed that the focus is still being, well, it could be Patsy. Maybe we need to get her to confess.
The police had eventually interviewed the couple 4 months after JonBenet's death. But now authorities want the Ramseys to come in again for videotaped interrogation.
There were months and months of negotiations. Things about whether they could be videotaped. What are the questions going to be? Should the Boulder police be a part of it? Because the Ramseys said, we don't trust the police. We don't want them there.
Ultimately, the interrogation took place at a different police department, and the Boulder police had to watch it from another building.
The Ramseys finally sit down with the police for 3 days of videotaped interrogations in June 1998, a year and a half after JonBenet's murder.
We were there for as long as they wanted, would have stayed for 2 weeks had they wanted. The myth that we didn't cooperate is nonsense.
When you were interrogated by the police, you were interrogated separately.
Yes.
Today is Wednesday, June the 24th, 1998. I'm president of the Broomfield Police Department, Patricia Ramsey.
Tom Haney, who was one of the most respected homicide detectives out of Denver, was chosen to interview Patsy Ramsey.
Patsy Ramsey had a year and a half to prepare. I knew that it was going to be tough to get a spontaneous response.
Do you ever recall purchasing black duct tape like this?
No.
It seems like there can't be a house in the world that doesn't have duct tape because it repairs everything.
Well, I never liked it because it's so gooey. Isn't it gooey?
He started out softly and kindly and curious, and then he got pointed with his questions, and that made Patsy angry.
If I told you right now that we have, in the process of being examined, trace evidence that appears to link you to the death of JonBenet, what would you tell me?
Totally impossible. Go retest.
How is it impossible?
I did not kill my child. I didn't have a thing to do with it.
She said it was impossible that we had physical evidence linking her to the crime.
I'm talking about scientific evidence.
I don't give a flying flip how scientific it is. Go back to the damn drawing board. I didn't do it. John Ramsey didn't do it, and we didn't have a clue of anybody who did do it.
I am so taken with her swagger. She just tells them, you know, you think you have some evidence on me? Well, you better look again.
We love that child, okay? We're not involved. Read my lips. Let's find out who is. My life has been hell from that day forward. And I can't stand the thought thinking somebody's out here walking on the street. God knows they might do it again to some other child. You know, quit screwing around asking me about things that are ridiculous and let's find the person that did this.
My dad's conclusions after that interview were just firmed up his belief that the Ramseys had nothing to do with this murder.
I'm not saying parents don't kill their kid. Parents do kill their children. So, but they're trying to say, Patsy, that their actions before, during, and after. Oh, it's just good.
My dad started getting frustrated as time went on because he felt that the case against the Ramseys was being slanted where no other evidence was coming in.
I thought there was something drastically wrong and that there was a gross injustice in this case. I had seen evidence of an intruder in the house that night.
Lou Smith thought that the Ramseys were being targeted unfairly, and he didn't believe the police were listening to him.
Smith so strongly disagrees with the prosecutor's focus on the Ramseys that he is resigning from the case, saying, "The case tells me John and Patsy Ramsey did not kill their daughter."
He wrote a letter to Alex Hunter telling them that he couldn't be a part of the persecution of these people, is how he termed it.
He wrote, "I intend to stand with this family and somehow help them through this and find the killer of their daughter."
My dad may have resigned from the district attorney's office, but he never stopped work on the case. He walked in JonBenét's shoes, and he owed it to her, he felt, to continue his investigation.
One thing Lou Smith fought to do was tell a grand jury his side of the story, the intruder theory. There were too many unanswered questions, in particular, that male DNA in JonBenét's underwear that didn't match anyone that they knew of. Who could it be?
Grand jurors arrived at the Boulder County Justice Center this morning and were escorted into the courthouse by sheriff's deputies.
There was enormous pressure on District Attorney Alex Hunter to call for a grand jury, and it took him almost 2 years to actually call one. I think it was the media pressure and pressure from the police that forced him to make that call.
A lot of work went into it.
You have to remember, this case was happening just after other high-profile murder cases in the country.
What did you think of your parents at that point by October 31st?
I thought they were these great people that I had killed.
From the Menendez brothers to O.J. Simpson.
O.J. did it!
Those high-profile cases were on most of the country's mind.
Good morning, counsel. Most people think the evidence of Simpson's guilt was insurmountable.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
And yet he walked. Alex remembered that. He told me one time, "I don't want to spend 2 years of my life and $5 million of the taxpayers' money and lose in court."
Alex Hunter sat a grand jury for 13 months.
Are you surprised by anything you've seen?
No. Over 13 months, those people heard over 100 witnesses.
My name is Jonathan Webb. I was a grand juror on the JonBenet Ramsey case. It bothers me that the murder of a little girl like this has gone on unsolved for essentially a quarter century.
Members of the grand jury looking like detectives themselves as they finally toured the Ramsey house.
From a crime scene perspective, it was very disturbing how she was found. She's on a concrete floor, a garrote around her neck, and she's 6 years old. That's pretty horrible.
Webb told us that the grand jury spent most of their time focused on two main issues. First, who wrote that ransom note?
We heard from 3 handwriting experts, and even though the handwriting experts couldn't definitively say that she wrote it, they all 3 came to the same conclusion that it could have been Patsy Ramsey.
The Ramseys' defense team had their own experts who said that the comparison between the writing on the ransom note and Patsy's handwriting was not conclusive.
And the grand jury believed that she wrote it.
The second focus for the grand jury, according to Jonathan Webb, was the viability of the intruder theory.
Smith actually presented his intruder theory to the grand jury.
This is the very first photo taken of a train room basement window. The window is wide open. Now, if I was a detective, I'd have said, wow, this is entry.
But the grand jury wasn't buying the intruder theory because of those cobwebs in the window.
The intruder theory didn't make sense to the grand jury. The Boulder police had photographed cobwebs. So for someone to get through a small opening like that and not disturbing a cobweb would be remarkable.
A grand jury doesn't decide guilt or innocence the way a regular jury does. The grand jury is only there to decide whether or not there's probable cause to charge the suspects with a crime.
We were troubled by, to what level of confidence do we need to have to vote to indict? And it's the preponderance of the evidence, which means greater than 50%. And soon after that, we voted to indict.
The grand jury was looking at 2 specific accusations for the Ramseys: child abuse resulting in death and accessory to a crime. The grand jury couldn't point the finger at Patsy or John specifically, but they were sure that one of them committed the crime and the other person helped to carry it out.
This is 7 News at 5.
There is high anticipation in Boulder right now for a Ramsey decision, and we are about to hear an announcement from Boulder DA Alex Hunter.
I and my prosecution task force believe we do not have sufficient evidence to warrant the filing of charges against anyone who has been investigated at this time.
I was shocked. It's extremely unusual for a grand jury to vote to charge and the DA not charge.
I think deciding not to prosecute the parents for homicide was the right decision. No matter what you believe about the case, it would have been very difficult to get a conviction.
Thank you very much.
There were too many questions, in particular, that DNA in the underwear that appears to have been from a man didn't match anyone they knew of.
That's why Lou Smith continued investigating even after he resigned from the case.
He had condensed everything he knew about every person of interest into a spreadsheet.
It's like a PowerPoint on steroids. It detailed 887 names.
But I think what turned this whole case has always been DNA. The killer left behind, I believe, part of his DNA.
On their podcast, Lou Smith's granddaughter spoke about his focus on the DNA in the case.
Over nearly 13 years, Lou took all of the information that he had on this case and developed a database. In this particular murder, he thought that DNA would solve this case.
And thanks to major advances in DNA, a number of big surprises were about to come to the case.
What became groundbreaking at the time was a thing called touch DNA. Essentially, when someone touches something, the skin cells they leave behind can be tested.
In 2008, the then district attorney for Boulder, Mary Lacey, decided to do a new round of DNA testing on JonBenet's pajama leggings.
Remember, there was already DNA from an unknown male found under JonBenet's fingernails and in her underwear. But analysis of touch DNA on her leggings uncovered something new. DNA from at least one unknown male, maybe 2.
In recent months, investigators used that new procedure, which helped them discover fresh DNA on JonBenét's long johns, left by the killer's fingertips.
Now new DNA analysis proves just that. The Boulder District Attorney clears all members of the Ramsey family in the murder of their 6-year-old daughter, JonBené.
That's a pretty big development. You've got DNA now in 3 places that doesn't match anybody in the Ramsey family. That's a pretty clear indication that somebody else was there, and nobody knows whose DNA it is.
This revelation of this new unmatched DNA drove the district attorney to announce they're no longer looking at the family.
The news broke here at the district attorney's office with this incredible letter to JonBenét's father.
DA Mary Lacey wrote John Ramsey, "We do not consider your immediate family, including you, your wife Patsy, and your son Burke, to be under any suspicion in the commission of this crime."
The DA also apologized to the Ramseys. She wrote in part, "To the extent that we may have contributed in any way to the public perception that you might have been involved in this crime, I am deeply sorry." John Ramsey responded to the DA's letter and the stunning development on a local newscast.
We're certainly grateful for an acknowledgement that we are innocent, that this was an intruder, which, of course, we've always maintained.
But this is a reminder how often that they are human beings and how often they get it wrong, how often their biases take them down the wrong path.
Somebody told me in the police world, they said the most dangerous thing is a police department that's made up their mind. And that's certainly what happened in our case.
All it takes is one match to the DNA, and you've possibly nailed the killer.
Our killer, JonBené, how many victims has he had in the past? And how many victims is he going to have in the future? And so this killer could still be murdering even today.
Lou Smith dedicated years to investigating the JonBené Ramsey murder case. But eventually, he ran out of time.
When he got sick with cancer, he knew that his time was limited. And so during that time, he just talked to others about not letting this case die.
He had people coming every single day, 60 to 70, 80 people a day coming to see him. And they said their goodbyes. And during that time, he would still talk about the case.
I remember about the last 3 days, he had slipped into a coma, and the conversations would become one way, and I don't know if you could hear me or not.
I'm John Ramsey. I had the opportunity to visit Lou a week before he died. Remarkably, during that time together, Lou talked a lot about the case. He hadn't given up. He never gave up.
Lou Smith's legacy lives on, and his tenacity to solve this case was passed on to his daughter, Cindy Mara.
And he just said, "I have a name. I want you to write it down." And I did. And he said, "That's where you start." You know, we'd be glad to pay that. We don't have that electronic report, so we would need Boulder to send it. After my dad died, a couple of us, our family, and then some of his old homicide partners, we just formed a team.
You want to go down to number 2, because that is an in-state one.
Yep.
What we all share in common is that commitment to fulfill Lou's dying wish, that this case doesn't die with him. And I think it's that devotion, that respect, that love for Lou is what keeps our team moving forward.
According to investigators, there were other possible suspects, including a local Santa in town who had previous interactions with the Ramseys.
There's no way in the world that I could be involved in the death of this little girl. I adored her.
But there's another man who comes forward with claims he's responsible for JonBené's murder.
I love JonBené, and she died accidental.
The mystery surrounding the murder of JonBené Ramsey haunted Lou Smith until the day he died. But he left behind that detailed list, hoping that one day JonBenét's killer would finally be brought to justice.
He had condensed everything he knew about every person of interest into a spreadsheet.
It was like a PowerPoint on steroids. The spreadsheet detailed 887 names.
He wanted us to take the list that he had and try and keep the case alive.
Out of those 887 entries, by the time he went into hospice, Lou had marked 134 cleared.
Over the years, there have been many leads that seemed promising at one time or another.
That new Netflix documentary, Making News, details how just months after JonBenét's murder, a 12-year-old girl who lived less than 2 miles from the Ramseys was attacked as she slept in her bed.
Sometime in the late hours, Mom hears a noise going on.
And there was, in fact, an intruder in her daughter's bedroom preparing to molest her. That person has never been identified. That girl had attended the same dance studio as JonBenet. Are the two cases connected? I don't know.
Boulder police said that while the two cases had some similarities, they found no definitive connection.
In the search for the killer, investigators chased down countless leads, including a local transient.
Here you have Gary Oliva, who apparently on the night or the next day after JonBenet was killed, called a friend and told him over the phone that he had hurt a child.
All of a sudden I get a phone call, and it's Gary, and he's sobbing into the phone like I've never heard anybody sob in my entire life. I hurt a little girl.
He was a homeless man who hung out at a church just a block and a half from the Ramseys' home. And he confessed that he killed JonBenet Ramsey.
They took a look at him, but eventually eliminated him because there's absolutely no connection between he and the Ramseys, and his DNA, they used that to eliminate him.
Investigators also looked into Bill McReynolds, a local Santa Claus who'd worked at the Ramseys' holiday parties.
JonBenet had made a comment that he, Bill McReynolds, was coming to their house to see JonBenet. I think everybody thought that was a little weird. His DNA didn't match, and he's out of the picture.
And then Alex Hunter, the Boulder County District Attorney, speaks directly to the killer.
I want to say something to the person or persons that committed this crime. The list of suspects narrows. Soon there will be no one on the list but you.
A day after the DA rattles the cage, a man named Michael Helgoth attracts the attention of authorities.
Michael Helgoth evidently committed suicide the day after the Boulder District Attorney threatened that, hey, we're going to find you.
The death of this child has broken all of our hearts. We will see that justice is served in this case and that you pay for what you did.
That speech was designed to get the killer nervous.
When Michael was found dead, there was a stun gun at his residence. Also, there was a pair of high-tech boots.
These two clues had previously been linked to JonBenet's murder.
Stun gun, a bit odd for people to have. High-tech boots, fairly common thing for people to have. But the real clincher would be DNA, didn't match, and he has no connection to the Ramsey family.
And so investigators also eliminate Helgoth as a person of interest.
Investigators finally felt they had a real break in the case with John Mark Carr. He famously claimed he was with JonBenet when she died.
I love JonBenet, and died accidentally. No. Her death was an accident.
So you're in the basement?
Yes.
Problem is, he wasn't in Boulder, Colorado when she died, and his DNA didn't match.
Even though Carr claimed he was in the basement when JonBenet died, there was just no physical evidence linking him to her murder. And so Carr was eliminated as a suspect.
Take a look at it.
Decades later, the search still goes on for the little girl's killer.
What our team has been doing is focusing on collecting DNA and testing DNA.
I think it's imperative that we investigate every credible suspect that's been provided.
If we keep at it, hopefully we'll finally whittle it down to one person remaining on that list.
Do you think you know who the killer is?
No, I don't. And this is a very dark, evil person. I don't know anybody like that.
But could advances in DNA technology finally help catch the person who killed John Bonet? The JonBenet Ramsey case is just as mysterious today as it was in 1996, when her devastated parents were left with tiny mementos from their daughter to hold on to.
It makes me sad that there were happy little hands in this glove. Now they're gone.
So the memories bring tears to your eyes, but you're also a little more at peace?
I don't know. I don't think I will be at peace until we find out who did this.
For Patsy Ramsey, sadly, her fight to find her daughter's killer ended in 2006 when she passed away.
Patsy died of ovarian cancer.
Yes.
Went through all of that without knowing that she'd been cleared.
That's correct.
She was buried next to JonBenet in Marietta, Georgia. But the search for justice continues.
I think it's even more mysterious now to some degree because who the heck was in that house? How'd they get in? Why'd they target her?
Lou Smith's family, dedicated to keeping the case moving forward, continues to work on whittling down a list they presented to law enforcement in 2020.
And what we presented was a confidential list of our top 20 people of interest and the list of the 8 people of interest that our team had eliminated through DNA analysis.
The technology has just advanced so tremendously. JonBenet's
significant hurdles.
What will be your message to the Boulder Police Department today?
Look, just tell us, are you using one of these very cutting-edge labs to do additional DNA testing? If you are doing additional DNA testing, that's all I need to know.
According to the Boulder PD, investigators are utilizing outside labs and experts in the latest technology.
Our collaboration also includes the Colorado Cold Case Review Team, which is a panel of outside experts brought together in December of 2023 to review this case. Our department has had ongoing conversations with JonBenet's family, the last of which occurred in mid-2024. Our goal is to find JonBenet Ramsey's killer. Our commitment to that has never wavered.
The family has not lost the will to fight and the will to find the killer. If we can find the killer, then the next generation doesn't have to live with that trauma and the unknown and the speculation. If we leverage the evidence, we follow the facts, we will find this killer. My dad certainly suffered a tremendous amount, but I think he's focused on life today and enjoying life with his family and grandkids, and he's remarried.
But he says he's still always thinking of JonBenet, trying to focus on the positive of this beautiful little girl who will always be forever young.
She knew she was loved. I mean, we told her that every day. Somebody asked me once, what would you say to JonBenet if you could? I would tell her, I'm sorry, I didn't protect you. You know, I had JonBenet bless my life for 6 years. And she really was a blessing.
I'm having so much fun.
It's a years-long mystery that has puzzled investigators. But out here in the desert, there's a break in the case.
Once we were inside, it appeared that people just got up and walked away.
It's not considered a crime scene, right?
That's correct. It wasn't a crime scene.
What detectives uncovered that suggests the McStays may have plotted their own disappearance.
What's incredible is that we're just several hundred yards from the border. I mean, the wall's right
That's
there.
correct. Did they cross the border and go into Mexico voluntarily or involuntarily?
All his surfboards are here, so he didn't go surfing in Mexico, guys. The double stroller here, they don't go anywhere without their double stroller.
It was totally out of character as a husband and wife and family to be romping around.
What bothered me was that I found an email to Summer. I love you forever. Happy birthday, Summer, forever and ever.
And there was a question of, is he following them?
And you see these text messages. These are very threatening. This is scary stuff.
Some evidence of financial things that seem shady to me.
What happened to this family?
The whole family, husband, wife, and 2 children, gone, like poof, disappeared.
Who's ever heard of an entire family going missing?
This is a house.
The McStays' home was supposed to hold lots of happy memories for this young family. For a short time, it did. But then on February 4th, 2010, Joseph McStay, his wife Summer, their 2 young sons vanished from here without a trace.
They were living in San Clemente, California. I remember them in the little tiny apartment that they lived in. And Summer gave birth to Giovanni. And they did have their second child in this small little San Clemente apartment too. So as Summer and Joe grew their family, they outgrew the little beach place that they were living in.
When Joey moved to Fallbrook, I think he was really excited of being a homeowner.
He was ready to move into a bigger house, have a yard for the kids.
There's a decent sized yard here for sure. Fruit trees. This is cool. Look how big the side yard is. I can do a lot over here with the boys.
I think Joseph was really on the upswing in terms of his business, his personal life. And Joseph had his own business, Earth Inspired Products.
He sold these high-end custom water features, the type you might see in hotels and business lobbies.
He actually started his business, I think, like in his garage, designing his own features by hand. And he had a partner, Daniel Kavanaugh.
I actually made the whole website. I was able to build a site that was like the Amazon of wall fountains. And then I stuck it to the top of Google for every keyword.
In terms of his website knowledge, that was the perfect partner to get him where he needed to be in the search rankings.
As the online business was growing, Joseph hired a welder to build the custom fountains.
Chase Merritt was Joseph's fabricator on the custom side. He would weld and manufacture smaller scale water walls for Joseph.
In a video posted to the company's YouTube page, Chase is seen putting together one of his newly built water features.
Once they started doing business together, they were on the phone constantly.
On February 4th, Chase says he and Joseph met in Rancho Cucamonga, where Chase lived, and they had lunch together at a Chick-fil-A. Afterwards, Chase says that Joseph stopped returning calls or answering emails.
When Chase couldn't get a hold of Joseph that weekend, he expressed concern, like, if you can't get a hold of him, that's unusual, and we should do something. And that's when he reached out to the family.
Joseph's web designer and business partner, Dan Kavanaugh, also reached out to the family when he also could not get a hold of Joseph. But then he takes it one step further.
I just took the initiative and I just called the cops. I put a welfare check in and I was like, hey, go by this address and see if they're okay.
San Diego County Sheriff's Office deputies conduct a welfare check at the McStay home. Nobody is home at the time, but there are no signs that anything is amiss, so deputies simply follow procedure and do not go inside. And then 11 days after the family was last heard from, Joseph's brother, Michael McStay, files a missing persons report. Now, he speaks to police in a recorded interview detailing the mysterious disappearance.
Yeah, nobody's talked to Joseph since before the 4th.
Well, what brought you from trying to call him on February 4th, getting nothing?
All the friends calling me, telling me that, have you heard from Joe? What's going on?
Dennis Brugos is a retired lieutenant from the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. He oversaw the investigation, and I spoke with him outside of the home where the McStays had lived. And once those sheriff's deputies come out here, what are they looking for?
If the doors are locked from the outside, and check the windows, you look around, you go around the house.
Deputies, they don't notice anything particularly alarming. No forced entry. But they do notice that the family's beloved dogs are left unattended in the yard, barking away, haven't been fed, have no water.
And then they probably see the note pasted on the side door here from animal control, basically alerting the family that the dogs have been abandoned.
Yes.
What does that signal to the deputies?
And that raised red flags because by all accounts, they were very good pet owners. They took very good care of their dogs. And for them to do that would be completely out of character for them.
I mean, their dogs were like their second kids. They would have never done that, ever, in a million years.
Once we were inside, it appeared that people just got up and walked away. There were some perishable foods on the counter in the kitchen. As I recall, there were a couple of half-eaten bowls of popcorn in front of a television.
Is it alarming to find uncooked eggs, popcorn strewn about on the couch?
I don't know if that alone is alarming, but I mean, when you put the whole picture together, them not contacting people, the dogs, perishable food left out, then all those things together makes you think it raises the level of suspicion that something's not right.
And what do we know at this point about the McStays' vehicles?
Well, we knew that one of the vehicles was parked here in a driveway and the other one wasn't here.
The McStays' white Isuzu Trooper is missing, and inside the home there are clothes that are just strewn about.
Deputies are looking around thinking, is there something really wrong here? But given that, they still didn't see blood spatter, no signs of struggles, no walls kicked in, no broken glass.
When you look at the situation at the house, then you start looking at the family situation. Who were these people? Were they possibly targets of some criminals for some unknown reason?
And then investigators get a break in the case. The family car is found not far from here along the U.S.-Mexico border. And then a surveillance camera, just like this one, captures what appears to be a family of 4 going into Mexico. So now the question is, are the McStays running from something or someone?
This is pretty close to the waves that we would surf, actually. Even a little bigger than Joe is comfortable with, but I can get him out there, and he loved the ocean.
Holy cow, it's breaking at the reef. See those guys out here? Look at that.
Hey, what did you make of Joseph when you met him?
He was chill. I liked just surfing with him, We're pretty simple.
What was life like for Joseph and Summer when they were living in San Clemente?
As our business got more successful, it became like the perfect life. You got your girl, now you got your kids, you're right by the beach. You can go surfing, you can run an online business. It's the American dream.
To me, Summer was exotic. She had dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin, and she also had a really big, cute smile. Once you got engaged, Summer was telling me that, she wanted me in her wedding. And the wedding was held at a beautiful venue here in South Orange County. And it was very fun and playful. And then when she got pregnant, she was thrilled that she was pregnant and starting the second part of her dream come true with Joey.
They had 2 kids.
Joseph Jr. and Gianni.
And they knew you. What did they call you?
They would call me Uncle Dan. They're cute little kids, you know. I'd come over, play some guitar, hang out with them.
They would go on bike rides as a family along the beach.
I'm having so much fun.
Woo! And I think they just were happy in their bubble.
They wanted to stay in San Clemente because of the surf, but they found that they had a lot nicer options down by Fallbrook. They were trying to renovate the new house, so they were going to do that all by themselves.
We're going to rip out the cabinets. I'll be putting a beautiful granite here, beautiful wood floors all through here as well.
They had barely started their home renovation projects when they suddenly disappeared in February of 2010.
As time went on, we started getting more worried.
It was just devastating. Time stops and you're in disbelief and shock.
After the San Diego County Sheriff's investigators visit the McStay's home, it takes another 4 days to get their warrants approved to allow them to remove evidence from the home. And what happens within those 4 days could critically alter the course of the entire investigation. It's not considered a crime scene, right?
That's correct. It wasn't a crime scene. There was nothing that suggested any type of foul play, but still, we were going to run with it.
What doesn't happen, though, is the house is not roped off. You don't see tape on the door, nothing like that.
Right.
And at that point, Joe McStay's mother comes in, and she decides to try to clean up. And so you don't actually know if she actually may have destroyed evidence because you weren't quite sure what evidence was in the house to begin with.
That's correct.
Investigators are also really interested in getting information on that Isuzu trooper that belonged to the family. But the thing is, it could be anywhere. And then they run the plates and they find out that the car is 60 miles away.
It was at a parking lot in a shopping center that was at the San Diego-Mexico border, and the vehicle had been towed.
Now, what investigators still don't know is if the McStays themselves parked their vehicle here or if it was someone else.
What's incredible is that we're just several hundred yards from the border. I mean, the wall's right
That's
there.
correct. Certainly walking distance, even with children.
When the car was impounded and detectives actually got to it, did they find any evidence that was useful?
They had the child safety seats in the back seat.
Yeah.
There was some medication that one of the children was taking, I believe, for asthma, but nothing else of any real significance.
Until February 8th, that Isuzu trooper was parked here. How does that influence the trajectory of the investigation going forward?
Well, from that point, then you're trying to say, why is the trooper down here? The international border's a block and a half away, so did they cross the border and go into Mexico voluntarily or involuntarily?
Police turn their attention to any surveillance video that might be at that border. And sure enough, after going through hours and hours of footage, they see a family of 4 calmly walking across the border on the very same day that Isuzu trooper had been towed from the parking lot.
And so it seems that a surveillance camera just like this one captured what looked like the McStay family crossing into Mexico.
That's correct. And at that point, you know, it was exciting from the perspective of the investigators that like we might have a lead here.
When we saw the footage of them in Mexico, supposedly, that was kind of a relief. They had found his car very close to the border, and so that made sense.
Investigators also do a forensic search of the McStays' computers, and they uncover what looks like an important lead. They call Michael McStay to break the news.
Hi, Mike. Hey. Finally got a little bit of a lead.
That's good.
We did the computer analysis, and on January 28th, somebody inside the residence on the computer using Internet Explorer, there were multiple inquiries to crossing into the Mexico area with children and what's required for passports. That coupled with the video and the placement of the car would indicate that they probably went to Mexico.
It seemed like every time you turn on the TV, there was something about it.
It became a huge local story.
Forensic computer experts found important new clues on the McStay's family computer that indicates the family researched and planned their getaway across this border into Mexico.
I remember there were some chat rooms about, well, Joey brings all these materials from Mexico. Maybe he's involved with the cartels.
We heard everything. There were so many crazy theories.
Adding to those theories and questions, Joseph's friend and business associate, Gina Watson, found some other possibly Mexico-related information while combing through Joseph and Summer's email for any clues.
So the email that I saw was about Rosetta Stone Spanish, and she wanted Joseph to go purchase it, and she was excited about it. It doesn't necessarily mean they use the Rosetta Stone to change their life and move to Mexico or something, but it's definitely a possibility.
But when Gina Watson takes a deeper dive into the McStay's accounts, she stumbles upon something that she finds alarming. It looks like someone has been taking money out of the company's account. Now, could that be connected to the family's disappearance? The McStay family has vanished without a trace from their California home. Eventually, the call for answers grows more forceful and becomes national.
Really disturbing story, so they need your tips more than ever.
Family members have searched near the San Ysidro-Tijuana border, where the McStay's vehicle was found abandoned.
Detectives are thinking it appears that they went to Mexico and it was their choice.
We felt that, there was a possibility that, it was a strong possibility that they left voluntarily and there was no coercion involved.
But those close to the McStays are just not convinced the family would head down to Mexico without telling anyone.
It was totally out of character as a husband and wife and family to be romping around.
Can I give you my number to pass along to them so they could call me?
Joseph's brother, Michael McStay, is equally suspicious that something just isn't right. Weeks after the disappearance, Michael goes back to the home, this time with a camera, and he's looking for clues and expressing his doubts.
Now look, all his surfboards are here, so he didn't go surfing in Mexico, guys. The double stroller here, the double stroller is here. They don't go anywhere without their double stroller. I mean, if they were down there, there's no phones in Mexico to call your family and say, "Hey, I'm drinking a Mai Tai down on the beach with $1 bazillion in the bank." No, it's just not like Joe.
Meanwhile, Gina Watson has been helping Joseph McStay's father, Patrick, comb through emails trying to find any clues. Since Gina and Patrick also doubt that the McStays traveled to Mexico willingly, they now believe that something far more sinister has gone down. At the time of the family's disappearance, Gina and Patrick knew that Earth-inspired products was poised to land some large contracts.
He and I both thought, since Joseph was about to come into money through his business, that it could be a financial motive for someone. And then I saw that there were withdrawals from the PayPal account.
Joseph had PayPal set up so that he could pay money to vendors or receive money from clients.
Gina notices several emails requesting money from the business account via PayPal from Dan Kavanaugh on February 6th, and several more after that, all of them totaling almost $7,000, all of which was withdrawn before the McStays had even been reported missing. So San Diego detectives called Dan Kavanaugh to ask him about those PayPal transactions.
And let me ask you this, Dan, I know you have access for PayPal and PayPal transfers.
Yeah.
All the way back to like the 5th.
You want me to do this? Itemize out all the transfers, get you like receipts and stuff.
And what kind of explanation did you give them about the PayPal accounts after the McStays went missing?
Maintaining the business, keeping it afloat, keeping the lights on, paying our vendors.
Did the investigator seem satisfied with your answers?
Yeah. And I could provide documentation, spreadsheets, proof, like everything.
If you could do that and just shoot me a quick ledger on where the money went, that way my questions are answered.
The San Diego sheriffs say that they were satisfied with the information Kavanaugh provided, and he was cleared. Gina Watson also gives a tip to detectives about Chase Merritt. He's the welder who builds Joseph's custom water fountains, someone Gina claims had a history of customer complaints.
You have to talk to Chase Merritt. I actually emailed the detective.
Gina knows Chase Merritt not just through Joseph, but also from the water feature industry, and she said she'd had direct experience dealing with him.
I would say he was good with his hands and good with metal, but there were complaints.
By his own account, Chase Merritt was the last person to see Joseph McStay. Since he's a priority interview for San Diego investigators, they sit down with him 2 days after the McStays are reported missing.
Joseph was one of my best friends, and obviously, and my business associate. And I can't remember a day that I haven't talked to him almost every single day for the last at least 2 years.
Investigators have lots of questions for Chase. Among them, what was that lunch at Chick-fil-A about?
I saw Joseph Thursday around noon. Thursday, which day? Thursday the 4th. Where'd you see him? At Chick-fil-A. We just had to go over all kinds of money stuff. Nothing to do with the disappearance, whether it's good or bad. Absolutely not. No. I don't know of anybody that has anything to gain by Joseph being gone.
Well, Chase wanted to find Joseph, so, I mean, he was willing to do anything he could to help the investigation.
Kathy Jarvis, Chase's girlfriend at the time, says that any allegations of unhappy customers were just untrue.
Go ahead and put the first piece of glass in.
On the Waterfall Company's YouTube page, Chase displays his handiwork.
He absolutely cared about his work and how it reflected on him.
At this point, there's really not much to do with Chase Merritt. They take a DNA sample and send him on his way.
With no fresh clues to follow, and because investigators believe it is possible the family left the country voluntarily, the question of what happened to the McStays remains a mystery for the next few years.
So in 2013, the sheriff's department, they felt that they had exhausted all of their leads. So they felt that their best case was to turn it over to the FBI.
As the days and weeks and months went on, we felt very hopeless and helpless.
But not long after the case is handed over to the FBI, a shocking discovery comes to light in the Mojave Desert.
North Victorville. It's high desert. It's about 3,000 feet elevation, kind of a desolate area. A popular sport in the high desert is riding and racing motorcycles. It was Veterans Day, 2013, and I had the day off, so I went out. It was a nice morning, cool and early. But when I go riding, I usually try to avoid most well-traveled roads and just look for trails and rougher roads. I'm going very slow, and I saw what I thought was kind of like an upside down a tortoise shell, which would be strange. When I walked over there, and it didn't look like a tortoise shell. Well, it looked like part of a skull, but it was no bigger than probably the palm of my hand. It's a heartbreaking thing because I couldn't help but think it was small.
911, is there emergency?
I'm out here on a motorcycle out behind the dump, and I found what looks like a human skull.
The disappearance of the McStay family has haunted family, friends, and the community for almost 4 years. And now, about 100 miles away from where they lived in Fallbrook, California, evidence unearthed from the sands of the Mojave might provide long-sought answers as to what happened to this family. That's what's so crazy about it, is that it feels like it's in the middle of nowhere, but we're a quarter mile from this busy freeway.
Very, very true, yeah.
Detective Eddie Bachman was a homicide investigator with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office when that 911 call came in. A team of investigators, including a forensic pathologist, was dispatched to the location right off the I-15 freeway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas.
It wasn't just the bones by the side of the road that the dirt biker found.
Correct. Once they kind of started doing the grid tour, the walkthrough of the area, that's when they located the graves.
2 graves just under 2 feet deep, containing human remains. Investigators begin to excavate the area carefully.
So you start removing some of the dirt slowly. As we start peeling it back, then we realize at that point that we've got 4 victims out here.
What's the realization for you?
It's huge to me at that point. You occasionally have one where, yeah, there's a victim that's located in the desert, but it's generally not of that volume. So it was at the end of the second day that we're able to get dental record comparison done and determine that the 2 adults were identified as Joseph and Summer McStay.
It takes a few more days to identify the remains of Gianni and Joseph Jr. through DNA testing. And for the McStays' loved ones, it's a tragic resolution to the mystery of the family's sudden disappearance years earlier.
It's not really the outcome we were looking for, but it gives us courage to know that they're together and they're in a better place.
That was such a hard day to see Michael on the press conference, barely holding it together. On the one hand, it's like, finally, you know something. But then there's all these other questions.
How did that happen? How did they get there? And, who did this? And something really terrible happened to them.
San Bernardino Sheriff's investigators now have the grim task of figuring out how the McStays met their fate.
As they're scraping away layer upon layer of those shallow graves, are you able to notice anything about what might have happened?
So initially, when I was working on the grave over where Joseph was recovered, we noticed obviously there was some type of blunt force trauma to his head, but he also had an extension cord that was tied around his neck and that was bound down to his lower extremities. There's obviously some malice or something that was involved with that.
In the grave with Joseph McStay was his son, Joey Jr. And in the second grave were Summer and Gianni, but also a crucial piece of evidence.
Ultimately, once the victims were removed from the grave, then we located a Stanley sledgehammer underneath the victims.
Did that give you an indication that perhaps that was the murder weapon?
Yeah, and initially looking at it, the size of the sledgehammer was consistent with the impact marks that were left on the victims.
And even though it's been nearly 4 years, an incredible clue remains, seemingly formed by a heavy rainstorm and then baked in by the hot desert sun.
There were sets of tire impressions that had backed up to where each grave were at.
Did it seem to you that this was one car, 2 cars?
Based on the size of the tire impressions, it seemed that it was one car that backed up.
So at this point, you have 4 bodies. You now know it's the McStay family. This must have just cracked this case wide open.
Yeah.
So you now know what happened to them. You just don't know who did it to them.
Correct.
When the bodies were first discovered, some of our first thoughts were, this has to be a cartel hit. Like, who does this? Murders people and buries their bodies out in the middle of the desert.
You think about what they possibly saw or feared. You think about, as a mother, wanting to protect those children. And it's heartbreaking. It really is.
San Bernardino detectives begin to gather all the information they can from San Diego investigators. But with no crime scene, no witnesses, they're basically starting from scratch. Who could have done this? And they begin by asking Joseph McStay's brother, Michael.
They got pulled away from the house by somebody that was comfortable to them.
So when we met with Michael and we talked with him, he believed that there were some people that we needed to look into. Charles Chase Merritt and Dan Kavanaugh.
What could have led to this horrible crime? Can answers be found in angry messages sent to Joseph McStay? That does sound like a threat. Or perhaps in possible evidence of a romance gone bad.
I found an email that said, "I love you forever, happy birthday, Summer, forever and ever."
Two of the bodies found here in the Victorville desert are those of Joseph and Summer McStay.
With this finality, Joseph's friends and surfer buddies, they hold a special memorial service on the water, something that surfers call a paddle out.
This is something that they love to do, so we feel like this would be important.
The paddle out was after they found him, and we finally could kind of have some closure. It was very touching.
Question now, who killed Joseph and his family? Homicide investigators from San Bernardino start by touching base with the San Diego Sheriff's Department to get all the information that they have from the missing persons case.
We met with them, we got the copies of their case files, but at that point it's our investigation, so we start from scratch.
It could have been anybody. You had to really look at everything with a open eye.
They want to talk to anyone who the San Diego investigators might have heard from that had any issue with Joseph McStay or his wife.
So Vic Johansson was one of Summer's ex-boyfriends. They didn't have the best breakup.
We know that at some time in the past, Vic Johansson pled no contest to making criminal threats to a neighbor.
What bothered me was that I found an email from December of 2009 to Summer, and it said, "I love you forever, happy birthday, Summer, forever and ever." It was just odd.
And there was a question of, oh, is he following them? Does he have an issue with the family? In the end, however, we were able to contact him, we were able to verify his whereabouts, and it excluded him from the list of suspects.
And then there was Michael McFadden. He's a man who was married to Joseph's ex-wife and was the stepdad to his oldest son. Now, years before, he'd pleaded guilty to an assault on an ex-girlfriend, during which police reported that she had claimed that he'd said he was going to kill me.
There were some issues between Michael McFadden and the McStays, just over some stuff to do with the children.
He was frustrated that he was being looked at as a suspect. However, he was very open with us and provided the records to say, hey, I wasn't in the area.
So while those people are cleared, the investigators are also looking at McStay's business associates, looking for anything unusual there.
We looked at Joseph's business, Earth-Inspired Products.
Dan Kavanaugh was the company webmaster, and he was critical for driving internet business to the website. But over the past year, his once close relationship with Joseph, it had soured, because he believed that Joseph McStay and Chase Merritt were cutting him out of money.
Because he was doing other deals with this new guy, I had no idea.
Chase Merritt?
Yeah.
What did you tell Joseph?
I was like, what's up, bro? Like, what are you doing? Like, you owe money now, dude.
So these are the text messages between Joseph and Dan Kavanaugh.
Yes.
This is pretty testy.
Yeah, absolutely. As you read the messages, you see that he's threatening to remove the site, and that's Joseph's livelihood.
Kavanaugh says it'll be about 30 days from today that your site is gone from the search engines. You treat me like a kid, like I'm dumb. Joseph responds, I, Summer, and the kids know the real you,
and what you would potentially do to harm me and my family.
That was his answer.
What does that mean to you?
That just sounded like a fake answer to me. And I didn't make any threats. All I'm saying is that I can stop the marketing to the site.
That does sound like a threat.
Yeah, but that's all I could do at that point.
And so
to make him take it seriously.
Despite the animosity, McStay had been paying Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh says their business relationship was still being resolved when Joseph and his family went missing. Kavanaugh says that after Joseph disappeared, he had to take charge of operations.
You can't just not pay all the bills. The business goes under.
Remember, Kavanaugh acknowledged to the police that he'd made several withdrawals of thousands of dollars from the company account. And while the family at first did have some questions about what was happening, Kavanaugh says ultimately he satisfied their concerns.
Well, yeah, because there'd be no company anymore if I don't pay the costs associated, right? So then there's nothing.
It made sense to me that they probably used Dan to keep the business going.
But Gina Watson says what didn't quite make sense is what happened after. But over a year later, Dan Kavanaugh sold the business.
Everybody was really upset about that because they didn't feel he had a right to.
Did you give part of the proceeds to the surviving McStay family?
No, they didn't create the business with us.
These are questions that we had as we're investigating it, because this is a problem, right? Is it a business deal gone bad, or is it something more than that?
But it wasn't like a huge blow up, like you didn't talk to him anymore or anything like that. I mean, you guys still talk.
Yeah.
You still talked every day.
But when we interviewed Dan said that things were all good with them.
I know that I sold a company and I don't see any laws broken. I own half that company, and I have the legal right to sell that company if I want.
He felt that Joseph owed him this money. He felt that he was entitled it, which is why he took it.
Not only that, but Kavanaugh is able to provide investigators with an alibi.
And he is also able to tell us where he was when the family went missing and provide photographs of where he was, which was in Hawaii.
I had taken my girlfriend with me at the time, and we were out there just surfing and hanging out.
Investigators are convinced that alibi clears Dan Kavanaugh as a suspect. But while investigators are talking with Kavanaugh, he's got a suggestion for them of someone who already is on their radar. The other main person in the business, Chase Merritt.
Chase owed him like 30 G's on these books around the time he disappeared.
Okay.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah, very. Absolutely.
And then he's probably going to get kicked off the whole deal and then lose maybe hundreds of thousands in the future over many years. So that's a lot of motive to me.
Are there still other secrets for investigators to uncover in this case? And what is it you see in this murky video from a security camera across the street from the McStay's home? Could it be the murderer caught on tape?
So at this point, you have 4 bodies. You now know it's the McStay family.
Everything shifts. We have a quadruple murder investigation.
Unfathomable. Just a family of 4, completely murdered. It's like,
So you now know what happened to them. You just don't know who did it to them.
There were some people that we needed to look into, Chase Merritt and Dan Kavanaugh.
They're missing a motive. Joseph and Chase literally adored each other.
They twisted the truth into something that fit their narrative.
You're writing checks to yourself in your boss's name the day he disappears off the face of the earth?
It's a coincidence that they disappeared that day.
The defense team tells that jury the killer has to be somebody else.
They pointed the finger right at you.
Yeah.
Like, I have a full detailed confession from him.
Did you ever confess anything to her?
No, that's a joke.
It was just like, oh boy, what are they gonna pull out of their back pocket?
Now, jurors prepare to hear some mind-blowing evidence.
Did you murder that family?
Cadillac bike. What's up, Jay? First bike ride ever. Jay, come here.
Who's ever heard of an entire family going missing?
We begin with a California murder mystery. The family of 4 vanished from their Fallbrook home.
the whole family. Husband, wife, and 2 children, poof, disappeared.
It's a years-long mystery, but there is a break in the case. It was out here in the Mojave Desert in California where this dirt biker going off-road makes that grim discovery, a human skull.
And then the story blew up.
We begin with breaking news on a mystery.
Detectives ultimately find the remains of the McStay family, and they're buried in 2 shallow graves here in the Mojave, about 100 miles away from their home.
It's believed that the murder weapon was a sledgehammer because one was found in the gravesite.
This is pretty much the same kind of hammer.
Yeah, it's really very uncommon for us to even find a murder weapon in most cases.
And so many big questions follow, but the biggest one of them all, who killed that family?
We're gonna find this individual, or individuals. I know that the sheriffs, the FBI, everybody wants to bring this to justice.
My name is Randy Knocken.
San Bernardino detectives are now on the hunt for a killer. And they're looking over old case files from former detectives trying to get clues.
Investigators focus in on the 2 men who worked closely with Joseph McStay on the online water fountain business, including his business partner, Dan Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh had been involved in this ugly dispute with McStay, saying that McStay cut him out of some of the profits from the business. Dan Kavanaugh had sent angry messages to McStay, who responded, "We know what you would potentially do to harm me and my family."
This is a very contentious conversation. We need to look into this.
Despite that apparent bad blood between the 2, they remained in business together, and McStay was paying Kavanaugh his share of those profits. And investigators determined that Kavanaugh had an alibi. He was in Hawaii at the time of the family's disappearance.
Maybe by the grace of God, I had decided to take a surf trip out there.
So investigators clear Kavanaugh and turned their attention to the other man who worked closely with Joseph in the water fountain business.
Chase Merritt, he gets involved with Joseph building these custom waterfalls, which were much bigger projects, the kind of fountains you see at restaurants and hotels that have to be custom built.
Hi, welcome to your how-to video of installing your new water feature.
This is Chase Merritt in a video on YouTube promoting the water fountain business.
It's about to go on when I'm plugging it in.
Chase Merritt says he met Joseph at this Chick-fil-A before Joseph disappeared to discuss the business. Merritt even goes on TV to talk about that day.
In your gut, what do you think happened?
I have absolutely no clue.
The only real big interest we had in that was the parting shot he took.
You were the last person he saw.
I'm definitely the last person he saw.
He doubles down and says, I was absolutely the last person to see him alive.
It's definitely something that caught our interest.
Now that this is a homicide investigation, San Bernardino detectives can also request warrants, and so they're able to dig into the business's finances. They say there's evidence that Merritt was deeply in debt to Joseph McStay, pointing to this email that Merritt had provided to the San Diego detectives.
Investigators say it's essentially reminding Chase that he owes Joseph a shocking amount of money, $42,000. And this email was sent 3 days before the McStays disappeared.
The interesting thing is in an audit of Merritt's financials, he didn't have that $42,000.
We found that he was just horrible with his personal finances. He had a gambling issue where he would go to casinos and spend a lot of money.
Chase was terrible with money. We had a couple of boats for a while. We had jet skis. We had things we didn't need.
Early on, investigators discovered Chase Merritt had a bit of a rap sheet. Turns out between 1977 and 2001, he had several arrests for burglary and petty theft.
Chase has never been violent with me. I've never seen him be violent. He's not psychotic in the sense that I feel like you could take somebody's life for money.
As detectives continue to review evidence from the original investigation, they say they make a major breakthrough when they take another look at the family's Isuzu Trooper.
The San Diego Sheriff's Department and processed it for evidence. They collected the DNA swabs, like, okay, we have it. Where is it going to take us?
It turns out that trace DNA found on the steering wheel and the gear shift belonged to Chase Merritt.
Chase Merritt told the initial investigators with San Diego that he never drove the family's Trooper.
Have you ever driven the white vehicle?
But nearly a year after the bodies are found, San Bernardino detectives bring Merritt in for questioning, and they press him, and he changes his story. Now he says, yeah, he once drove the Trooper when he and Joseph went to play paintball before Joseph disappeared.
Detective Fisk asked you if you'd ever drove the Trooper, and you said no.
Actually, that isn't what I said, because I remember the conversation. The last time I had driven the Trooper was when we went paintballing, but it was 150 feet.
The fact that his DNA is now recovered off of an area where the driver would have touched, that's a red flag for us.
We believe he drove that down to the San Ysidro border.
For detectives, signs are pointing to Chase Merritt. But later, a woman comes forward.
Well, I think you guys have the wrong man.
Well, what she tells investigators convinced them they've got the wrong man.
Like, I have a full detailed confession from him.
It's gonna get a little bumpy, okay? After the McStay family was found brutally murdered out here in the desert, the cops began zeroing in on Chase Merritt. And it turned out that he was very familiar with the Mojave Desert. He grew up around here.
Chase grew up in Hesperia, California. It was, pretty much the middle of nowhere. I actually met Chase at a country western bar. He can be off-putting, but he can also be charming. We share 3 children together. At least half of his family still live in the desert.
The area where Chase Merritt grew up would prove pivotal to the investigation. That's because detectives find that 2 days after the McStays disappear, Merritt's cell phone pinged off of that cell phone tower, which happens to overlook where the bodies were buried. And this is near where he used to live.
He's showing in the area where the graves are. That's a huge deal.
His phone comes on and it hits off the tower here in Victorville. We later find the graves, and we find the victims.
Quite a coincidence.
Pretty significant coincidence in our investigation.
He also has family in the area. So is there a reason that he was here? Or is he here because he's burying bodies?
So now detectives ask Chase Merritt pointed questions about why his phone is pinging off those towers overlooking the graves.
Where'd you go February 6th? Why would your phone show you at the gravesite on February 6th?
Not possible. I wasn't there.
Why would your phone records show you there? They do?
Chase Merritt repeatedly denies being near the gravesite.
It shows you out there, Chase. That's why I'm asking. I'm trying to help us figure this all out.
It's impossible.
Were the records wrong?
No, he pinged off those towers.
Did you plan to go down and kill these things?
Of course. To hurt them.
What were you doing in the desert then? If that's not you at the gravesite, what were you doing in the desert?
If I was in the desert, there's 2 places I would have been. Either my older sisters and/or grand.
Chase Merritt talks with detectives for nearly 7 hours, continuing to deny that he was ever near the gravesite. And despite the evidence against him, he's ultimately allowed to leave, free to go. So why did you let him walk out of that interrogation room?
Well, at that point, there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Could Merritt have been out there visiting his family in the desert? Investigators interview his sister, Juanita Merritt, to try to find out.
And Chase Merritt's sister, Juanita, lives basically on the other side of that mountain?
Yeah, she lives on the other side of the mountain out in a small little town area called Oro Grande. So during the interview, she did not provide him any alibi.
Chase, at that time, when he was with Joe, never came up here.
That's what I was going to ask. Can you remember it all?
He didn't even hardly visit. I can remember one time he visited.
About how long before?
In 5 years, I hadn't seen him.
And she was adamant that he wasn't out here at that time. His brother lived out in Hesperia, but didn't have any indication that he would have been up here visiting.
There was no explanation as to, why he was there.
At what point did you decide to move in and make the arrest?
We believed we had enough to prove that he was the only person who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to commit this crime. We presented it to the district attorney's office. They agreed. Then we went and got the warrant to go arrest him.
Chase felt like the police were eyeing him as a suspect. When he got arrested, it was kind of expected.
He didn't resist. We walked him into sheriff's headquarters and placed him in a holding cell.
The suspect is 57-year-old Charles Merritt.
I was in front of the courthouse for the arraignment. So Chase Merritt is charged with 4 counts of murder.
I don't need to tell you that this is a cold and callous murder of an entire family.
We also heard from members of the McStay family, and after 3 years, the emotion is just pouring out.
I said I wasn't going to cry, but you have no idea what this means.
Merritt pleads not guilty to all 4 counts of murder, but it'll be more than 4 years before he has his day in court.
The case finally getting to trial 9 years after the McStay family disappeared.
Now, jurors prepare to hear some mind-blowing evidence.
Investigators also obtained a surveillance video.
But will this evidence help them win their case?
Why do you think this video is important? What do you think it shows?
Or will it sink it?
It's been nearly 9 years since the McStays disappeared, and now a reckoning. Chase Merritt is about to stand trial at this courthouse in San Bernardino in a case that has captivated the country and become a national mystery.
When the trial starts, all of us in the media are finally saying, now we're going to get some answers.
The family was brutally murdered. Today, opening statements start in San Bernardino from Merritt.
How does this family of 4 disappear off the face of the earth? Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case will show you not only the how, but the why, and especially the who. And the who is sitting here in court today, Charles Merritt.
The prosecutor's theory of the case is that they believe Chase Merritt was being fired by Joseph McStay during what Merritt says was their final meeting together. Take me back to February 4th. Chase Merritt, Joseph McStay meet at a Chick-fil-A not far from where we are right now.
Allegedly, yes. We developed the theory that if there was a meeting at all, it was a very quick firing. The cell phone records show that Joseph went back home. It's later that Merritt's phone goes off the network for about 4.5 hours. And it's in the middle there where we believe Joseph and his family disappeared.
Disappeared or were murdered?
Murdered.
Chase Merritt's defense attorney says the claim that the murders happened inside the house, that's ludicrous.
The method of death, according to the prosecution, was by sledgehammer. Blood would be strewn everywhere. There was not one speck of blood found in the entire house.
Is there actually any evidence that they were murdered in that home?
No, unfortunately, there's no forensic evidence.
Like zero forensic evidence.
Zero forensic evidence. And we never contended that we could prove that.
Chase Merritt's attorney denies there was any animosity between Merritt and Joseph McStay.
What motive would Chase have to kill Joseph? Joseph and Chase literally adored each other. They had gotten contracts worth millions of dollars. These two were going to the moon, and neither one of them could have done it without the other.
Prosecutors, on the other hand, say there is a motive.
The why boils down to greed and greed's child, fraud.
Authorities allege that Merritt had a gambling problem and that he lost money. So they say he wrote checks from the water fountain business to himself and then tried to cover his tracks.
So these checks were on Joseph's business software. They were backdated to February 4th, and then they were deleted from the system. And that's important because we realize that nobody knew the family was missing yet. So why would someone delete it, backdating it to the 4th?
The defense maintains that Merritt had permission to write the checks, and they refute the claim that he had a gambling problem.
He wrote checks to himself to buy materials. That was a common practice. Checks were backdated routinely.
Moline also says that there's an innocent explanation for that email that allegedly showed that Merritt was tens of thousands of dollars in debt to Joseph McStay.
This was a running ledger. 1 month up, 1 month down, 1 month up, 1 month down. It was not a debt.
But you have to remember, they have some direct evidence as well. Chase Merritt's DNA is in that Isuzu Trooper.
We get DNA results that place him in the driver's side of that vehicle.
Prosecutors say it shows that Merritt was the one who drove the family's vehicle to the Mexico border.
The defense has an answer for this, that it could have been transfer DNA.
When I shake your hand and I go to touch a steering wheel, my DNA is going to be on the steering wheel.
And during the cross-examination of the state's own DNA expert, he doesn't rule out that possibility.
Would it be reasonable for you to conclude that this could be secondary transfer DNA in the vehicle?
It is a possible explanation for that.
Is it a reasonable one?
I believe it is reasonable, yes, sir.
San Diego investigators also obtained a surveillance video from the neighbor across the street.
In a key moment for the prosecution, they played this surveillance video for the jury that shows a vehicle leaving the McStay's house the evening they went missing.
As you start to analyze the video and you take a closer look at it, you can see with the naked eye that there's a low-hanging tailpipe. Well, the trooper did not have an exhaust pipe on the passenger side. The exhaust pipe was on the driver's side.
Prosecutors contend the video that actually shows Chase Merritt's truck, and they argue that it places him at the scene of the crime. How do you actually know that's Merritt's vehicle?
It had characteristics consistent with being Merritt's truck, including the shadows that are cast by the brake lights, the height, width, and placement of the headlights.
But the centerpiece of the prosecution's case is when an FBI cell phone expert testifies that Merritt's phone was pinging in the area of the desert where the McStays were buried.
The cell phone can give you, from a historical perspective, it can give you a general location of where somebody has been.
I heard their expert testify that I can't place Chase's phone near the gravesite. He's in the general area, the best he could do. That doesn't sound like certainty to me.
Our expert never claimed to have been able to what's called geolocate the user of a device based on the technology and data that was available from 2010 records. All we know is that his phone pinged on the 6th on a tower that overlooked the gravesite.
Remember, Merritt says he could have been at his sister Juanita's house when his phone pinged in the desert.
But she originally told detectives that she hadn't seen him in 5 years.
He didn't even hardly visit.
So, I mean,
in 5 years, I hadn't seen him.
And when they call Juanita Merritt in to testify, prosecutors are in for an unpleasant surprise.
How often do you think that you would see your brother around that time frame?
I saw him quite often.
Do you remember telling the detective that you hadn't seen him probably for about 5 years?
No.
Juanita changes her story on the stand.
She claimed that he had been up there, but her memory was really fuzzy because she had had surgery and was heavily medicated.
Was that harmful to the case?
We had her prior statement.
The interview that Juanita and I had was all recorded, and that was able to kind of disprove her assertion.
After nearly 9 weeks, the state rests, and the prosecution leaves the jury with one parting shot. That clip of Chase Merritt's TV interview.
I'm definitely the last person you saw.
We ended with that because it is the most poignant statement to emphasize to the jury. Even he believes he was the last person to see him alive.
Now it's the defense's turn.
Let's do it.
And they try to flip the case on its head by saying not only did the cops have the wrong guy, they point the finger at the person they allege is the real culprit.
It was just like, oh boy, what are they going to pull out of their back pocket?
Two months into the murder trial of Charles Chase Merritt, the defense now gets to present its case to the jury.
When we see the McStay family, we see, victims. We do. And we want justice for them as well.
As the defense begins, it has one clear message for the jury. The prosecution has got the wrong man.
And that's what this whole investigation is. We want Chase Merritt. So let's just do gymnastics with logic and figure out how do we build a case against him.
Did you ever believe that Chase Merritt was guilty?
Not for a second.
Not for a second?
Not for a second.
You never had a moment of doubt?
Never. I don't know who did it, but certainly the evidence points to other people other than Chase.
That evidence that the defense has is actually DNA recovered from the burial site.
In our investigation, we were able to get 3 DNA profiles from the material that tied up Joseph and from the bra of Summer McStay.
The defense was making the argument that the DNA evidence that they had collected from the gravesite did not match Chase Merritt, that in fact it matched someone else.
Apparently, Chase killed this family, buried them, and put someone else's DNA on everything, and not his own.
There was no DNA of other individuals found at those gravesites.
So whose DNA was found at the gravesite?
Nobody's. It's just a total misrepresentation of what the science is.
Prosecutors claim there wasn't enough DNA for a full, scientifically valid profile that would either allow testing that would exclude Chase Merritt or lead to anyone else. But the defense disagrees. They claim the authorities just didn't look at other suspects seriously enough.
They failed to look at Dan Kavanaugh.
And in particular, the other person in business with Joseph McStay.
I mean, he had nothing else to defend the guy with. There was a pile of evidence that he did it. So then the defense is like, well, this other guy did it though.
But the defense claims there is plenty of evidence against Dan Kavanaugh, starting with a shocking new allegation raised by a woman named Tracy Riccobene, who, accompanied by her dog, came forward to authorities. So who is Tracy Riccobene?
That was just a friend that I met from another friend, literally a platonic friend.
Prosecutors say that Riccobene had contacted them after the trial was already underway, claiming that Kavanaugh had confessed to her about the murders.
When did that full confession come out?
Maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
But investigators say what sounded like it could have been significant.
Like, I have a full detailed confession from him. If you want to know exactly how they did it.
Turned out not to be.
None of the things she said caused Kavanaugh's alibi to come into question. We knew Kavanaugh was in Hawaii.
Did you ever confess anything to her?
No, that's a joke.
But the defense is still willing to go for a Hail Mary in court.
And then lo and behold, October of 2018, Tracy Riccobene gives a statement. And what she says is Dan Kavanaugh confessed to her that he killed the McStay family.
Even though the defense tells the jury about Tracy Riccobene, they ultimately decide not to introduce her police interview tape into evidence or even to call her to testify. Now, the judge also strictly limits what allegations the defense can raise against Dan Kavanaugh, who is neither accused nor on trial.
Remember those threatening messages that Dan Kavanaugh sent to Joseph McStay? Not allowed. But The jury can hear about the financial transactions that Kavanaugh made after the family went missing.
Dan Kavanaugh, despite having a relationship with Joseph for many years, had never gone into his account and taken money himself.
The defense wants the jury to believe this is evidence of financial motive for Kavanaugh to kill McStay.
Do you know what the total amount that Dan Kavanaugh took in?
In total, the income was $206,000.
That money includes the almost $7,000 Kavanaugh transferred out of the company's PayPal account that he said he needed to keep the business going, as well as his proceeds from selling the company a year and a half after Joseph went missing.
And that money went into Kavanaugh's account.
That's correct.
The only way he would do that is he knew Joseph wasn't coming back. He sold Earth-inspired products. He sold it and got the money.
There is no evidence, no credible, reliable, corroborated evidence to justify pointing the finger at Dan Kavanaugh.
The prosecution dismisses the defense's financial arguments and, in fact, its entire effort to blame Dan Kavanaugh because he had that alibi.
The problem with attempting to say that Dan Kavanaugh was the killer was that we had very concrete proof that Dan Kavanaugh was nowhere near San Diego at the time of the disappearance. Dan Kavanaugh was actually in Hawaii when they disappeared.
But at trial, the defense challenges Kavanaugh's alibi. They claim there's no definitive proof of a trip.
The best they were able to do is present a plane ticket that he purchased. It doesn't mean he flew. It means he purchased. Show me that he got on a plane. Where?
They got a verbal confirmation that that ticket was used.
To further counter the defense's claim, prosecutors call a rebuttal witness, Kavanaugh's girlfriend at that time, Lauren Knowles.
At any point during that relationship, did you and Mr. Kavanaugh travel? What?
Yes.
You recall when you returned?
February, middle of February.
His girlfriend was with him and posting pictures of all of them from Hawaii on her Facebook page.
But the defense offers something else for the jury to consider. They claim Chase Merritt has an alibi of his own.
According to the prosecution, the family was dead before 8 p.m. How could he call Chase at 8:28 p.m.? Doesn't make sense.
So far, the defense has tried to show someone else could have conceivably killed the McStay family. But now they try to show Chase Merritt could absolutely not have done it.
At some point, did Chase come home?
Yes.
By arguing, as Chase Merritt's former girlfriend, Kathy Jarvis, testifies, that he was at home the night of the murder.
Now, was there a phone call that Chase received in the evening hours?
Yes.
And do you know who the call was from?
Yes.
Who?
Chase.
This is an absolutely critical moment in the trial because Jarvis is testifying that Chase got a phone call from Joseph McStay just as prosecutors say Joseph McStay is being murdered.
According to the prosecution, the family was dead before 8 p.m. How could he call Chase at 8:28 p.m.? Doesn't make sense.
It became a very emotional recollection. What if you were the one he was reaching out to save him and you didn't answer the phone, you know?
But prosecutors don't buy it. They maintain Chase Merritt called himself using Joseph McStay's phone.
The nefarious explanation is he attempted to create an alibi by doing that.
They're making it seem like because I love him so much, I'm going to lie for him. I told the truth, and they twisted the truth into something that fit their narrative.
The defense continuously attacks the prosecution, and in perhaps the most contentious moment of the case, they accuse prosecutor Britt Imes of withholding evidence they allege he knew could help clear Merritt.
Defense called Dr. Leonard Rudin.
It had to do with this witness, Dr. Leonard Rudin, and he's one of the world's leading forensic video experts called by the defense to testify about that critical piece of evidence, the home surveillance footage of that truck.
I'm not sure whose witness I am at this point, but at some point I was prosecution witness.
Now, remember, prosecutors contend that was Chase Merritt's truck, and originally they were going to call Dr. Rudin to support that, until he changed his mind.
They're cherry picking their evidence.
So now, outside the presence of the jury, the defense tries to convince the judge the prosecution did not turn over Dr. Rudin's key findings.
We are requesting that
I relayed the general understanding of what I had. The defense had it. They communicated with the witness. It really was, we want our case dismissed, is what they wanted.
But after the whole thing is over, the judge makes his ruling and he sides with the prosecution.
There was no suppression of evidence and no prejudice.
So it baffled my mind that they would stoop to that level to accuse me of misconduct.
But the jury, they're unaware of all of this. And Dr. Rudin is now testifying